and welcome to The Real Study with your hosts, Mr. Snippets,
Welcome back to The Real Study,
Black Girl Marvel,
But I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
Mr. Marvelite,
not knowing anything about the film.
all the movie things,
And like I was locked in right away.
the pre-review with Super Gummy Guru,
Review.
and me, the Real Study movie voice guy. Let's go to the poster wall.
Good evening and welcome to The Real Study. This is still season 1 and this is episode 24. I am Mr. Snippets, and to my left, as always, is Black Girl Marvel, and Mr. Marvelite is with us tonight, and all the movie things. We are all here tonight, and it's just us, so you get to experience just us tonight. We are doing an all classics evening, and that will be including everything you see before you: North by Northwest, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and Shawshank Redemption. Let's move on over. How are you guys doing tonight?
Can I just say real quick, the whole like Mr. Marvelite is with us tonight? Like, am I not normally not with you guys on here?
No, we're just that we're all here tonight.
I'm with you, but I'm not with you.
Well, we've all missed nights except for me. I guess we all miss the nights if I'm not here, but that's okay. That happens. And welcome to everyone so far. We've got Hannah there with us. I don't know who else is out there because it doesn't always keep me up to date, but we are going to get right into these movies because we've got 3 movies to cover, and they're all pretty intricate, I would say. There's a lot to each of these films. So we're gonna go chronologically. We're gonna go North by Northwest first. It came out in 1959, starring Cary Grant and Eva Marie Saint, directed by the Sir Alfred Hitchcock, the filmmaker, I swear, of that era. At least from what I could always tell when I look back. And I want to go. Let's see. Who I always go with everybody kind of differently. So let's go just all the movie things. You're right there. What was your initial impression?
North by Northwest.
North by
All
Northwest.
right. This movie's great. Loved it. I will say it was. I know there's moments of humor in this, and I think there's a lot of moments that were funny that maybe weren't initially intended to be funny. But there's this one line where Ava Marie Saint says to Cary Grant, "I'm a big girl," and then he responds, "Oh, I know," and in all the right places.
Right, what he says, yeah,
like,
I died.
What
These lines, that's a line. I was like, told my friend, I was like, the lines of these movies.
Yeah, I
I
was
was like,
crazy.
wow, this is an older film.
Okay. Yeah, but,
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, the like level of like mystery is great. The build up was really great. I mean, the classic, plane chasing him down was like, I was like really surprised by that actually. So this is actually my first time watching it.
Mine too.
And I was not expecting it to like hit that damn truck. Anyway, there's like some really great stuff in there, and Hitchcock is just like, I mean, there's a reason he's a man he does. So
Right.
I really enjoyed it.
All right, Mr. Marvelite, we'll just go around the horn.
So I actually had thought I'd watch this, and when we were talking on the live last night,
Right.
I was like, I'm gonna have to revisit it just to refresh myself. And then I turned it on, and I'm like, I don't remember this. But then I'm sitting there watching it. It was so familiar. There have been so many movies that have used that premise of you got the wrong guy,
Right.
but now I'm gonna become the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, even to the point of where we just have a movie in the theaters right now. Is it called the Lost Kingdom or whatever?
Lost
Sandra
City.
Bullock film? Lost City. Like literally, it's that same concept. I can't think of his name now, but there's a Netflix movie like that. Adam Sandler just did one with Christopher Aniston on Netflix as well. Like there's all of these films where it's kind of like just regular people getting mixed up in these like espionage and long storylines and stuff. And it's definitely refreshing to kind of go back and see kind of where it started. But at the same time, the misogyny, like it was a misogyny for me in a lot of the comments I'm sitting there. I'll say this one other thing, and then we'll go. Is like the whole point where she gives him like the address of where to go out in the middle of nowhere to like there are so many like obvious things. Like the guy that's standing there, he's staring at And he looks at the guy and he goes, that's odd. And he's like, what? He's like, that plane is crop dusting where there's no crops. And
Yeah.
it's like, at this point, you should know that everybody's out to get you. Like,
Yeah,
like-
right. Suspect everything.
But
and everyone.
is he
So
that witty?
boy-
I don't know. I don't take him as that witty. He's just like the
Right, he hasn't
average
caught on.
businessman. He's not top tier. Like Cary Grant might
Yeah,
be,
well,
but like the
and
character.
the thing is too, like they established kind of early on that he's not really like he needs his like secretary to write down
You need
everything.
his secretary,
like,
his
you know,
mother,
like,
he
Or his mother,
So-
right? His mother.
yeah,
is
or his
another one.
mom.
He
like,
calls his
yeah.
mom for everything.
Yeah.
All right, Black Girl Marvel.
This is my first time seeing this movie as well. Mind you, I've seen that crop scene
Oh yeah.
a
I mean,
lot.
yeah.
And I was like, hey, it's from this movie.
Right?
So I was like, that's a nice closure in my life to know where that scene comes from. So it was nice. Usually when I see that scene, it is in black and white. So this one was in Technicolor. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
This movie was a wild, weird ride. And it just shows me how many movies I have watched in my life that I was like, okay, so your henchmen are dumb because they thought just because he called the waiter that he was the guy. And that's like, that doesn't make sense. But all right.
Yeah.
I was like, they stupid. If they would have never been stupid, this plot would have never survived.
Yeah. I mean,
but I
next
mean,
time use LinkedIn or something to hire your
Exactly.
henchmen.
The acting is very like 40s acting, but it was still nice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it
it's
was
of
still
the era
nice.
for sure. Yeah.
For sure. Like, but it was like still nice to watch. It was still nice to be immersed in that time where
Yeah.
saying dumb things like that to women was cute. And she was just all like,
Right.
ew.
Like I would never say that.
So
You know what I mean?
Bitch.
It was just amazing.
Yeah.
I've never seen I think this is my first Cary Grant film.
Oh, really?
Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's not an attractive guy to me. But I
he
can
was in
see
his
the
50s
appeal.
in this film.
Yeah,
This
he
was one of his
he-
later
he
films.
was much older. Yeah. like
Listen,
if you watch like
Jack-
Bringing Up Baby or something, like
Or Philadelphia
Jack,
Story.
yeah, Philadelphia
Jack
Story,
Nicholson
like-
still look handsome to me.
That's
so
fair,
it's one
that's
of
fair.
those things where I'm just like, yeah, he's
Right.
just not my cup of tea. But I will say this: I love how back in the days, like how they used to wear their clothes, like very high waisted.
Oh yeah, I know. I was thinking the whole time. Yeah, I was thinking the whole time. Too. I was like,
think
damn.
That's so attractive. It's ugly attractive. It's
So-
so attractive to me.
His
That's
suit,
funny, yeah.
suit. There's actually, I looked up some trivia on this movie because I thought it's the part that I found a little more interesting because this is actually kind of the first James Bond film in a sense. Like a lot of
Yeah.
Bond tropes were labeled after these tropes or they ran with these tropes in a lot of ways.
Sorry, Ray.
Including the suit. Apparently, that suit cut has been used over and over in Hollywood because it's considered like the suit in Hollywood.
The suit, right?
Right.
I mean,
I mean,
yeah,
which
and like
I
that
kinda like
era
it,
though.
though.
Also, it wasn't just
Yeah.
like in movies,
Right.
but a lot of people were wearing
with
like
that era,
Yeah, but that
style
suit
and-
went through a lot and didn't look that dirty.
Listen
It
Right,
was.
here.
It was.
Listen
It was
here.
pressed. You know, he pressed it. The
This is
the
how
valet
I
pressed it.
know-
Right.
Yeah.
This is how I know movies got better and better, or just like the thought behind them got better and better. Not saying this wasn't a good movie, but just like the thought behind them got better, and like technology got better. Like you can see, like, but even though this was like a 40s film, it still looked great. You could tell like some of the sets were built, but you could tell some of the backgrounds were like fake and things like
No,
that.
totally.
Like,
I mean, the chase
So,
scene and like
you know what I mean? Like that chase scene was just them in a car and a green screen, and I just loved every bit of it.
But
But I
well
will say
done.
this.
That B reel was shot very, very accurately and very
Oh
well.
yeah, and it's
Hey.
about the editing,
Right.
Too. in
Hey,
these
it
things,
is what
like-
it was to me. It was nicely done, but you could see like where the advances in technology
Oh,
happened.
yeah.
But it was like great.
Yeah.
But I will say this: to be running around on top of Mount Rushmore in heels,
I know.
that's some Jurassic
Okay.
Park level.
No,
Still
that's
shoes
Richie
type.
Rich level. That's
Yeah.
like that was
That is
Yeah.
Richie Rich level. Like, but to me, my thing was, honey, if you don't take your shoes off, and then it's up in the suit, all y'all up there in dress attire up on these rocks, not thinking.
Yeah,
y'all gonna
Grant's
fall. I was
shoes
just
were like
why-
slick
man.
shoes. They're business shoes.
No,
Slick.
totally.
Yeah.
Okay,
Slick
and
shoes.
the line after the guy is stepping on his fingers and he gets shot, and the guy goes, "A
Yeah.
gun. That seems a little unfair, doesn't it?"
He was like
Yeah,
actual
but you
bullets
see
or
that-
something like
that-
that. He said, "It's like
That
real
blade
bullets?"
gun got used a whole lot.
Yeah.
There were
Like
definitely
trick gun
those.
or whatever. Like yeah.
But
Now-
my thing is this: okay, sir, why are you asking for help? He wants to kill you.
Yeah.
That was a
Do you think
lot.
all of us? Do you think all of a sudden he's going to be sympathetic? Like, oh my gosh, you're both.
He
hanging?
tried.
Oh, let
He
me
hoped.
help."
He was hoping.
Yeah.
But City, go ahead.
So what I was going to say was the very first thing I noticed was that every time I've watched an Alfred Hitchcock movie, and I still have some of the, I still have some, that I need to get under my belt, but every time I've watched them, I swear Hitchcock hated his mother because the moms in all these movies are not good people. And his mom was told, like, he may have been a mama's boy or whatever, but he was asking for her help and for her to like trust him and believe him. And she made fun of him. She even laughed with his potential killers, his would-be killers in the elevator. What the shit?
Outed him.
No, I was like,
she,
what?
Like she heavily outed him. She's like, he's like, Mom, these are the people. Like essentially looking at her, and she's like,
even in the courtroom,
you're not really here to kill my son.
Yeah.
Oh, I hated that. It made me mad. Yeah.
Ma'am.
So funny.
Toss Mama from the Train. I see why they made that movie.
Oh yeah, I have to say one thing too. Like this film has the incredible Saul Bass title sequence in the beginning, which is like this is like one of the first uses. Like I mean, I think Vertigo they use Saul Bass as well, but Saul Bass worked a lot with Hitchcock, and then he started. I mean, he's done stuff all the way up to Schindler's List as well, as far as like posters or title sequences. Yeah, and this is like one of the first uses of an actual like animated title sequence in a different way. Instead of it just being titles, it was like this cool grid, and then it like crossfades into like, oh, it's actually the window panes of this building, and you're seeing like the perspective of the text come on. And it's like the same perspective as the building, and
it was jarring. It's very
great.
jarring.
Yeah, I just love that stuff. And Saul Bass is like a legend.
The screenwriter is Ernest Lehman, who said that he wanted to make the Hitchcock movie to end all Hitchcock movies.
Damn.
And I think he spoke that into existence. I think everybody look at this as the quintessential Hitchcock. Like,
yeah.
So there was some great. I went for some of the behind the scenes stuff just because it's an older film and it doesn't draw me in quite like modern film does. But I do my best.
Right.
But the behind the scenes gets me more excited, and so there's some pretty neat stuff. The entire Mount Rushmore thing they built down on MGM's lot.
Yeah.
The entire forest that they walked through was he did 800 square something. I don't remember the number, but it was a ridiculous number of trees they actually shipped in and made a forest so that they could film just those scenes. The UN scenes were all guerrilla filmmaking.
Nice.
They shot all of them in secret with hidden cameras, and then went in with cameras secretly to take pictures of the interior in order to recreate on studio set the interior. So like they went painstakingly, and there's even one moment where Grant is walking to the UN because they want to get that shot, and they're across the street hiding, and one of the extras goes like, "Oh, that's Cary Grant! Holy crap!" Right? So like that's in the movie too. So it's
that's
just
stuff from
little things,
I mean, that's funny you say that too, because like it kind of there's moments where it feels like in film school you kind of just do whatever you need to do to get the thing done. Like it's all about creative problem solving, and there's like these moments in this film that I recognize, like, oh man, they're just doing whatever they got to do to figure this one thing out. It's like, I love that kind of stuff. For me, like, it makes me enjoy the film a little more, just because I'm like, oh man, even Hitchcock was like having to find like these like workarounds for things, and even though they had money, or maybe they didn't have enough money, and so they're shooting guerrilla at the UN.
Well, no, the UN just wouldn't allow it. They're like, no. So they went against the UN's proposal.
Yeah,
to do that,
so they found a way to do it legally.
Not necessarily legally either.
No, they tried.
There's a lot of films.
Kinda.
There's a lot of films that
it's
do
a loophole.
Yeah.
It's a little loophole.
It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You'd be like, what? No, that just looks good. It's movie magic.
But I will say this, on the other end of me talking about how we can see the advancements in like filmmaking, we can also see how like a lot of it kind of devalued a little bit, because like once CGI became a thing, people stopped building sets and people stopped building pieces and stopped, you know what I mean? Stop, like, because I feel like you have to have like the CGI with the actual props or with the built-in thing, just because to me one of the things that pop in my mind is Pirates of the Caribbean is one of those that it use actual practical effects, prosthetics, explosions, all that kind of stuff, like pyrotechnics on a green screen, right? And it's like, and it still holds up to this day. Like Pirates of the Caribbean was made in like early 2000s and still looks very, very well done. So like for me, this film kind of makes me wish people would go back to that type of thing, like that actual like get on the street and film, and like even if you film to get like just a reference for it. And then if you have the budget, because the budgets are so big now, you can easily do that. But people just chalk it up. They be like, "Well, we got the money. We'll just do CGI." Like,
No, that happens.
But you have
Sometimes
the
it's
budget to be like,
Right.
I get
Yeah,
that, but it's
Well,
like,
we're also
but if
living.
you know this movie is gonna break the bank.
So if you look at the location
make stuff.
scouting for this film, it's all over the place. The film was filmed in L.A., it was filmed in New York, it was filmed in in parts of Southern and Northern California, it was filmed in South Dakota. It's filmed everywhere. But that in a world where we're trying to maybe combat climate change isn't going to fly. Literally, not to use a pun, it's not going to fly as much. So people have no choice sometimes but to pick a couple locations and then do the rest in CG. I think that the film industry's changed in that way.
Plus, it also helps them keep control over like things leaking. If
That's
they keep
another
it in a
point.
studio with a closed set.
It's another really
I
good
say
point.
it changed a little bit, but not a lot, because you got a cartoon like you got a company like Disney that decided to send their people like to different Polynesian islands to get the accuracy of like the
to do
hair
research.
to do
Yeah.
research. So I feel like you can still, I'm not saying it like, we go
Right.
to every place in America, but it's just like you have the budget to send like 4 to 5 people somewhere to go get the accuracy and not chalk it
Yeah.
up to
Yeah.
just to make your movie that much a little bit more special than what it is.
Films like Mission Impossible and any Bond film, they're like actually going.
Yeah,
these
they're going to
locations
these
and
places.
shooting.
Yeah, there's a whole
Yeah.
there's a
Or
whole lot
Marvel.
of problems with movies like
Marvel
Mission
too.
Impossible.
Marvel.
Like Mission Impossible, like even the stuff that I'm hearing about the recent one that they're doing,
Oh my god!
like it's like the drama is just ridiculous.
What do you mean?
And
It's
basically it sounds
crazy.
like Tom Cruise is like unbearable on set.
Oh, I thought we all knew that.
No,
Yeah.
but like it's worse. Like
to a different degree because of
anti-COVID
COVID.
rants and
Yeah.
Oh.
all like it's getting ridiculous.
Tom.
I'm surprised.
And the
Like
budget's,
literally
like,
after
way
hearing what he's
inflated.
doing with Mission Impossible, I hope we don't have a variant with him playing in Multiverse of Madness. Like the dude doesn't need to be.
Right.
He needs to kind of.
We don't need to prop him up.
Take a break.
Right. Yeah, agreed.
No,
So
I
some of the
don't think
shots that we
Marvel
were
has
talking about,
problems.
some of the shots we were talking or haven't talked about, but are I think kind of akin to what Lala was saying, are like the shots of him walking, like trying to meander. I guess he didn't really run away from the exploding truck and plane, which they did a great job. That whole scene is tense. Like it really is a very tense scene.
Listen, that's a sexy run, man.
But he's
Well,
but he's
but
like,
it's like
you
He
know,
did do some real runs.
But
He's
that's the
like-
thing. You
cornfield,
try to
yeah.
run while staying in the camera ring.
no, I know, and looking over your shoulder to
Yeah.
make sure the shot looks good. I know,
and
I
wearing
know.
a suit.
Honestly,
Right.
those are
The
very
suit.
that's like very Steven Seagal like runs. Like it's not really a run,
my
but it's a
God,
run,
no,
you
no.
know?
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's Cary Grant. I think struck me as somebody that I think people thought looked good, but his acting doesn't always do it for me. He's okay, I guess. He's
not an action star. That's the
I
thing.
mean, I don't know. Like
I don't know.
like Lala made a good point about like it's the acting of the era, and so I don't begrudge it. I kind of like transport myself to that time and be like,
Sure.
okay, I need to like disconnect my like what top tier acting is today
Yeah.
to like that, because like Cary Grant was
I
you
know.
a household name.
Now, to be fair, Jimmy Stewart is one of my all-time favorite actors, and I absolutely love him and adore his acting in that era.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
there are still standouts, and to me, I guess maybe
Oh, of
I'm
course, yeah,
comparing.
yeah.
I haven't seen
There'll
enough
always be.
movies from the era, to be fair. When I was
Right,
looking at my
right.
letterbox, it kind of goes flatline until the 70s, and then it goes,
Right, yeah.
Well, you also have to consider we're watching a film where the action, like real life action today, is probably more like North by Northwest. We've grandized this idea.
Oh, yeah.
of what
Yeah.
fighting and action is.
Right.
Like I can
Right.
tell you right now, if there's an explosion happening, odds are you're going to be running like he was, like looking over, like
Right, because you're going to be
is this really
curious.
happening? Because
Yeah,
you're in
because you
shock.
have no idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're not taking it seriously.
That's a fair point.
It's-
He's like, did that
Yeah.
really happen?
It's like,
Did
what?
that?
Plus they
Really
start him out as like a simpleton in the sense, like he's not so much a simpleton because he's an ad exec, but he's honestly like a chauvinistic ad exec to begin with, and then he meets this woman and it kind of changes because he's been divorced 2
like
times.
Mad Men.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Very Mad Men style. So it's just
Oh,
like
yeah.
he starts off as this like, this is my life and this is what I do, and then people listen to me when I talk type of thing, and then these people aren't listening to him when he talks. He's just like,
He even says
what's
that a few
happening?
times. He's like, aren't you
Yeah, he's
listening to me?
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like,
He's
I've
like,
been
"What,
married
you know?"
twice. He's like, I'm married twice. Like, what happened? Well, my wife's divorced me.
No, and she's like, I love it because they're both hanging from a ledge, and he's just like, they said about my life not exciting, and I was like, well, that.
yeah, I know.
But here's the thing, like, this is the thing I mean by like watch so many movies, you kind of see like where these original tropes come from. So to go back and watch these like movies where these like ideas or tropes or like relationships kind of stem from, the moment she popped up, I was like, oh, she's a spy.
Okay.
I was like, I was like, oh, she's a spy. Like the moment she was like, I think he left. I was like, she's a spy for somebody. I was like, I wonder who she's a spy for.
Yeah.
Come to find out, she's a spy for like our side, I guess you would call it or whatever. But it's just like,
I don't know, because
like,
she's
she's
spying
like
for
a
the
double
group that's no
agent.
good either. The government's no good
So
in this case
what's-
either.
Yeah.
But what's
no,
interesting
because
is
that
like,
was funny though, because the government wanted to hang him out to dry. And then was like, we need your
Yeah.
help for like 2 more hours. If y'all would have just
Well,
had his help from the
And we're
beginning,
taking
we
your
would've-
lady, right?
You know,
Right.
so first of all, what I thought was interesting because like my first thought was when we found out that she's like working for the government was like, oh, like this is like 2002 Furious, like this is where they got the concept from. Except for when she goes to, when they go to explain it, like she fell in love with the bad guy, and then the government came to her, and I bet they had trash on her or something. But
Probably, yeah.
basically,
I mean, she's dating the bad
basically
guy.
she-
That's good enough
yeah,
then.
she's dating the bad guy, and so instead of differently, where like the agent is supposed to infiltrate and then falls in love with the guy, like she was already had fallen in love with the guy, and the guy loved her too, and then the government turns her against him, and then you have this I forgot what I was going to say. Like that was like I was all excited about that point, and then
There's
I
too many
completely forgot
guys
that-
in there. Like,
Oh
yeah.
no,
Yeah.
but like and then you have I still forgot what I was going to say. Never mind. It's
She's
okay.
honestly, I mean, shout out to her for being like literally like the only woman on that set. Like, no offense to the
Right.
mom and no offense to the secretary, but they were like in the first half of the movie. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
their scenes were like done and over. She was the only woman throughout this whole film, like being
holding it down.
grabbed and ogled and
Right.
snatched. And I was like, my arm would have been bruised by how many
Well,
times
I
a man
know.
So
ripped
Yeah,
her
yeah.
by the arm.
That
I'm just
that
like,
stood out to me too. I was like, man, like, yeah, like I mean,
she's younger than all these guys by
Ugh.
20 years too.
yeah, like she says she's 26 in the movie too.
Right.
Like,
And Cary Grant was 55 at the time, but like
Yeah.
playing a
But
40-something
that
year
was
old.
totally in
so
my
far,
head
so
too.
yeah.
Okay, I remember what I was gonna say now.
She
Oh, okay.
So the no, I forgot what I was gonna say. No, honestly, no, but they weren't gonna help him. Like, I think that if he would
yeah.
not have messed up her cover, at the auction, they would have let him go to jail because there was no reason for them to interact with him.
Oh,
The only
yeah,
reason,
yeah.
the only reason why was they needed his help to sell her cover again because there was a question there.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like I don't think the government ever really needed him until he messed things up, and then they realized, oh, maybe we should have gotten him in on it because this made things worse.
Well, that's the government, but you
That makes sense.
pretty much got a guy, like set a guy up to die because they said that the cover was
Yeah.
essentially for her. So that guy was made up for her so that she didn't get like found out in the middle of what she was doing. But it's like you left this stranger out to dry and he didn't do anything. Like he
And
was
the thing
literally
was-
wrong place,
It's
wrong
called
time. And y'all were
collateral
like-
damage, and it's okay during a Cold War.
And
That's
then
kind of
like
what
the
they said.
fourth,
Yeah, I guess-
the
yeah,
fourth
yeah.
And
woman,
honestly,
the fourth woman
the-
in this film was just like, well, have a good one, Mr. Thornhill. Like,
And
Right.
they staged the shooting for him to sell her part again,
yeah.
but they didn't need to. The guy wasn't concerned about her. Like
Yeah.
it was just like he was unhappy.
But he
with
became
the-
concerned, and so did his henchman, right? So did
because of that shooting. Like
Right.
that shooting brought, like if he wouldn't have done anything, like the film would have gone
But
away.
I don't know
She
though,
would
but
have gone away with the bad
also,
guy.
but I also feel like if you in certain scenes, like that scene at the auction house when he's like, oh, she's a Black Widow type of situation, type of thing, kind of like he was talking, and the guy was kind of looking at her like, so how you? Because they already think he's a government agent, and then for her to be dealing with a government agent, I
Yeah.
feel like the suspicion.
I
I feel
think
like
it
the
put her in,
suspicion
in
was
a
there.
danger.
I think it put her in a little hot water, but then the gun thing put it over the edge. Like, because the guy was fine with her, but it was the henchman that was like, I don't trust it because she.
Why
she
didn't she
locked this up
ditch
with
the
a-
gun?
Come
That's
on,
what I was thinking.
That I was thinking the same thing. I was just like, honey, get rid of this.
They got
Like,
You
so
never
much-
know when you're
they got
when you're gonna
they
need to
stretched
not
that
shoot
gun out
somebody.
so well though.
I guess so, huh? But like, because the guy
That was
wasn't like the
ridiculous.
bad guy wasn't like he thought she was good, but it was the henchman who had the issue.
I'm
It was
sorry.
like the
And then
henchman, so.
and then like she's the maid has got him by gunpoint, and then like he comes down
Yeah,
after
like-
the gunshots, and he's like, I was stuck for 5 minutes until I realized it was the same stinking gun.
It
that
was
you
your
had."
silly gun. Yeah. Here.
I thought about it the moment she showed up with the gun. I'm like, that's the same gun. So here's a little snidbit, if you will. So apparently,
He said
there are only 8 feet of film that were left on the editing room floor for this film, which is kind of an unprecedentedly low number. It's like less than 5 seconds of film left on the floor.
Yeah, or it's just a testament to Hitchcock's efficiency,
Right.
on like knowing the edit in his head already. You know,
Knowing exactly
like-
what he wants, having it even
Yeah.
pre-written down, however his
Mhm.
method was.
Yeah.
The other thing that I found rather interesting was his intricate detail, because we have all these movies these days where like, oh, look at all this interconnectivity, or look at all the like attention to detail, and I'm like, that's not new. Hitchcock,
Right.
when Martin Landau says the plane will be landing in 10 minutes, it's literally 10 minutes later in the film that the plane
Yeah.
lands, because Hitchcock
Yeah.
loves doing that kind of stuff, and I love that kind of stuff.
I love seeing that type of stuff.
Right.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, you know, that's like Quentin Tarantino and the whole like walk 7 paces or whatever, and then you drop dead or whatever.
Yeah.
Or 5 paces, and then he actually walks 5 paces and he drops
It's
dead.
not like
I like stuff.
like movie time where it's like this made up. It's
Yeah.
like
It's not
Where
like
7
it's not like-
scenes layer on
It's
each
not
other,
like
right?
Wonder Woman 84 where they were like in the desert but it was still the same time in New York.
I
right.
almost feel
Yeah.
like the fact that there wasn't so much film that was left behind, and that he edited specifically, he made it,
Mhm.
set it for what he needed. I think that is a safeguard against what we have with problems with continuity in films now. Like if I were to talk about the worst film of continuity, if you've ever seen Master of Disguise, that film has no idea where it's going,
Right.
even in the film. And then when you go back and you watch the deleted scenes, you're like, oh, well, if they just put that in there, it would have made a whole lot
Right.
more sense.
Yeah.
But like that movie has such continuity issues, and it's because they film things over and over and over again, and they filmed this storyline and that storyline because they had no idea where they were going with it.
All
And
right.
I think a
But
lot of
editing is
films have that
crucial, though.
problem.
Editing is crucial though. Like sometimes you can take a shoddy movie, and if you cut it correctly, it might not be that bad. But I think like
Yes,
whoever
that's
was
true.
editing it, I feel like
You go
whoever was editing
streamline.
that
They-
movie, if it's all these good scenes, to me it's kind of like to update it a little bit, it's kind of like Justice League. Like
Right.
Justice League, there's stuff on there's deleted scenes that better yet, Batman versus Superman. There's deleted scenes where
That's a
I'm
good
like,
idea.
if you would have just put this in there and taken a little sliver of that out, this movie would have flowed better. There would have been more information. You wouldn't it's sometimes editing can be like crucial to the filmmaking process if you don't get it right.
Yeah, the
Right.
That's why
ultimate edition
whenever
of
I'm a
Batman
director,
v
I would just edit
Superman
my own
was much
movies
better than the
because
original
it's
theatrical
just
version.
That's true with any of the DC films that they've re-edited. I would argue that both of the Justice League films suck on equal levels, but that's just me.
They
Yeah, but-
they do.
At
They
the
do.
same
Yeah.
time, too, there's this whole joke that we would say like, "Oh, screw it, we'll fix it in post," but it's a joke because like you don't want to rely too much on post production. You want to be like,
You can't go back out and
let's-
shoot
let's-
again. Not
let's
really.
leave the problems to the editor. Let's hope the
Right.
editor fixes all.
Which
the
then
stuff we
leads
messed
to
up.
which leads to like the voiceover stuff, and then you have that issue.
Right.
But even like and this is the thing, like even Marvel has this problem with their movies. Like the big controversy of one taco, two taco in Endgame. If you haven't seen that, like was it when Hulk is walking towards the Benatar, he
Oh,
grabs 2 tacos to give to Scott,
Yeah.
and Scott only
And then
has
he's
one taco in
he's
his
holding the
hand.
one.
And people are like, well, it's the way he's holding. I'm like, no, there's only one taco.
There's only one taco.
Like let's
yeah.
face it, they messed up.
Yeah.
And it's like
So
And that's
no, it
that's
just
that's
proves
a
that
script supervisor thing, though.
it just
That's a
proves
script
Hulk,
supervisor thing.
Yeah.
and that's probably true. It just proves that
Yeah.
that Hulk has sleight of hand. Is really all it proves.
Right. Time travel.
right.
I mean, maybe he's
Yes.
maybe Scott has taught everybody magic. You know?
Yes, I like the
Yes.
idea of Hulk doing close up.
And then all of a
magic.
sudden, Scott comes out with tacos in his hand.
Exactly. I'm just saying. You never know.
Okay, so when the Marvel talk happens, we tend to have gotten off track unless we're talking about it. I'm kidding, of course.
I don't think we're ever off track. We're
I don't
always
either.
on
I
track.
don't either.
Right.
Wait,
We
Marvel
always-
being off topic?
so-
we couldn't do that with DC.
That's fair. That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Yeah.
So Lala, I think I realized. So it's March 27th, and I believe that you and I met a year ago. Now, right around now, and you started the show. I think next week. So we're at our weird anniversaries that are starting to appear.
Yay!
Because Mr. Marvelate also appeared at that time, so
Well,
it's
that's
like a
great.
double
Yeah,
anniversary.
so-
So yeah,
He's
wait,
my favorite person to mess with.
he is your favorite person to mess with.
I don't know
all for
why.
it. It's okay.
I feel like he's like a little big brother. You know what I mean? Because like all y'all older than me, but he's like a little big brother that I get to like jab and mess with, and he just takes it and he's okay with it. You know what I mean? He's never like he never messages me afterwards and be like, "Can you not do this to me?"
I didn't think we were
Like, he
allowed to
just
do
I
that.
will cry on my own. It's okay.
You aren't allowed. You take what I give you.
That's
You
right.
love me for it. No, but yeah, like he.
I always
just-
say
he just-
thank you, ma'am. That's all.
Yeah.
Thank you. Might have
Yeah,
another.
yeah.
Thank you, Miss Lala.
You're welcome, my boys. You're welcome.
That said, do you guys have anything else about North by Northwest you want to put out there?
I will say this: I love the clothes. I just
Yeah.
love the
No, I did
fashion.
too. Yeah.
As
I
a
don't make
as a
clothes like
person
that
who
anymore.
just, I looked at Eva Marie saying her outfits. I was like, baby.
I
Okay,
know.
so hold on. On that note, that means
Right.
you think Hitchcock had great taste because he actually
Yeah.
hated his set or his costume designer, and they walked away from the entire costume set and went down to
I
Fifth
love
Avenue
it. I
and
think
he
I
bought
think he
everything
has good
for it.
taste. Listen,
I mean, he was always
I-
dressed.
Cool.
You know.
fashion always comes back around, and like those dresses
Yeah.
with the gloves
Oh,
always
yeah.
comes back around. Those high waisted suits in the cut and all that kind of stuff, and just like
The small ties.
rolling the small ties, like all that stuff comes back around. And I think those are like aesthetics and like fashion like choices that are timeless, or always clean, always looks great. So I
Yeah.
think this film aesthetically, the clothing was just great. I will say this though, I can tell that money went into the clothing of the immediate cast, not the background people. Background people was just like, come in what you got, because we
Yeah,
ain't
that's
got
usually
budget
how
for
it
y'all.
goes too. Yeah.
The henchmen didn't
Which is
need good
okay,
suits
but-
though. They needed henchman suits, so that works.
But I mean, to me, it all looked great. But like I
At
said,
least it
I
didn't say
love
henchman one on the shirt.
I love the high waisted. That's very
3 weeks ago.
Adam Ward, yeah, type of thing. I love the high waisted and the tucked in shirts, because I was just like, how he climbing around in dress shoes? I'm like, how he's Tarzan in this on this building. Like, I love it, but I also love that like love gives you confidence to do things, because all of a sudden you're a spy, even though he got caught in the TV, but still like you're a spy now. Like you're throwing coins and getting people's attention,
Right.
and you're sneaking in.
Kind of.
I'm just like, you're a spy now because you love her, but I'm going to suspend my belief, because this happens. This is a trope in every movie. Everybody finds their confidence when they find somebody they love.
Oh,
Yeah.
So.
but I'm
Love
gonna
gives
be
you
I'm gonna be
confidence.
honest with you. Like at the end of this thing, when he pulls her up into they're in the train and he pulls her
Yeah.
up onto the bed, I'm thinking, I wonder what Mother thinks.
She'd probably
think-
happy
I will
he's
say
settling
that's
down
the
again.
that's the only part I didn't like, that I didn't think flowed easily, but that's because I don't think back then they had transitions or great.
Well,
ways
that
of,
J
like,
cut was like
figuring-
harsh. It didn't feel
yeah,
right.
like figuring that out, because it was just like she went from being like, I can, and he's like, reach, and then it gets all glowy around her face, and then he's like, reach, and he's like, then it's like, come on, Mrs. Thornhill, and I'm just like, that's ugly. I didn't like
it.
The
A
only
Oh,
lot
just
of
little
films of that
crazy thing.
era, they didn't wrap things in a bow. They kind of just
Biggie.
like cut out and expected
Yeah.
you to just be. It was like, okay, you've got the story, it worked out. We don't really want to have to explain all the rigmarole afterward. We see a lot of times like the aftermath of them sitting on the back of an ambulance, like kind of regrouping and having that like that touching moment. They skip all of that back in like the early
Well,
1950s.
because there's no
Yeah.
credits to roll. They're just done. They walk
Yeah,
away.
they're
The
just
credits were
finished.
rolled at the beginning. They don't need it.
Yeah, and I actually love that, but I think because productions are way bigger now, way more elaborate now, you have more people you have to like shout out for
the
that.
30 minute like pre credits.
Well,
I mean,
Superman.
look at it.
Superman.
Man, those credits in the beginning are so long. I almost fell asleep off of those. But
That's
also means like
Spider-Man.
in our era now, like there's not like a lot of there's like a few credits in the beginning and then all of them at the end. Like
Right.
they just repeat.
That's George Lucas that did
like-
that, by the way.
Interesting.
So in
He ruined our
1977,
lives.
he wanted
Cool.
to do the crawl, and everybody freaked out and was like, "No, you're gonna have to." And so he paid fines in order to have the crawl. Factually, just said, "I'm gonna throw down all this money so that I don't have to put credits." So he paid off the Screen Actors Guild, the Directors Guild, so that he could just do it. And now everybody's like, oh, let's just do our own thing in the beginning. So it's kind of changed the industry. But that is different than, say, like the Superman credits, which were considered, I think, still maybe the longest intro credits to a film. Brian, I don't know, you might know this, but it's weird.
They're pretty long. Well, the weird thing is too, like, they're not, the actual credits that they're crediting aren't really any different than any other film. Like they didn't add more credits to it. It's just they take a long time to like come up.
That song though is why we need to hear that song.
Yeah.
Well, they kind of did it with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy as well. Like if you really think about it, if you go back and consider like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, like you had that whole big like CGI web crawl with the theme, and it got worse as the movies progressed. It's like
because they were telling the story,
like,
right?
All this stuff, and Spider-Man 3 was like the whole trilogy was explained.
They had to do both of them.
Yeah, it was. I was like, "Geez, Louise, sir."
Yeah. I mean, we just saw it. We own it on DVD, Sam. We don't need
right.
I know,
like,
right? And we just watched it. Like,
not like they didn't have people like just saying like, "You're gonna watch all of this anyway," but let's go ahead and recap it again.
It's kind of like when you're watching a TV show and they're like, "Last time on," you're like, "I just watched I don't need this recap."
Exactly.
That's what it feels
the
like.
halls of justice.
Right. So why don't we go ahead and rate this film? We are at 45 minutes. That's a good length for a film. We have two others, both I think with lots to talk about. So let's do our rating, and we'll roll on. No pre-review tonight. It's just 3 movies and us, which is weird, kind of harkening back to a year ago.
Which is like old times.
Right.
It's like old times.
Right.
So let's go in the same order. All the movie things. What is your rating? And did you see this? No, we all saw this for the first time. Weirdly.
Yeah. I'm gonna give this an 8. I really enjoyed it. Even though I thought it was funnier than it probably should have been, or what they were initially intended. But, I mean, there's a lot to it. I mean, like, yeah, I just loved the costumes were great. And I have to say too, like Ava Marie Saint was gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
Like,
My gosh, yes.
Also, there's a Superman connection. She played Martha Kent in Superman Returns.
I noticed that too.
So yeah, but yeah, I really love this more than I thought I would. So it was great. I give it an 8.
All right, Mr. Marvelette.
She's gorgeous.
I probably I mean it's dated, but it's also kind of like a good period piece. When you think of like classics within like season, like I think of Vertigo, North by Northwest.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of films that Hitchcock. I mean, especially there's a reason why Alfred Hitchcock is like kind of a legend in the industry, even though he's never won an Oscar. But it's like, you know, it's talking of Oscars, like you never understood. I never understood that.
He was in my Oscar snub.
I'm about to say
list.
Brian has a video about that. Actually.
I can tell you why he didn't win an Oscar, if you'd like to know. At least my
Probably
speculation.
political.
It is absolutely political. His movies were too edgy. They were pushing. So let's think about Eva Marie Saint in this movie. She was a spy in '59. What? A woman is a spy, and that's why people didn't expect it, because she was a woman and a blonde woman with like very doe-eyed look all the time. So like that's.
And I expected it. I was like, she's a spy immediately.
Because now,
now
we expect that trope. Because but then that was a fresh trope. Nobody expected the woman. And so for that reason and other, he showed blood, and he was the horror guy they didn't want to take seriously, even though he was damn good at his job. That's why. Anyway.
Yeah. I probably would say I'd give this an 8. I probably agree with that as well. 12-year-old me did not pay attention to this film at all. So can't really rate it for that. But
that's fair. Black Girl Marvel.
I initially gave this a 7.5, but I'm gonna give it an 8 because of fashion.
Okay. Fashion gets a plus.
Fashion gets a 0.5. Because it just looks great. And like I said, something about a man in a high waist pant that I enjoy.
I'm gonna bring it back, Lala.
Keep Lala away from the old folks' homes. Right?
You liked Urkel, didn't you? You liked Urkel.
That's a different high waist pant.
It's because it had suspenders, right? If it had no suspenders, you.
No, here's the thing. My dad wore suspenders. My grandfather wore suspenders. I don't have a problem with suspenders. I had a problem with how he wore suspenders. Like that was
okay.
But just because it looks like, I don't know, maybe it looks like a working man type of thing. Because like that's how working men look. Even when they would wear like jeans and a t-shirt, it was always like jeans, tucked in shirt, you know what I mean, pulled out just a little bit. It's just a working man's thing, and I think that's just like appealing, I guess, whatever. So I gave this movie an 8. I thought it was like I thought it was like well done, even though I feel like 8 8 minutes. It should have been more than 8 minutes on the cutting room floor. Like just a couple of things, because it was a couple of times where I was like, I gotta watch the movie for the podcast, and so I
do it for the podcast.
Do it for the podcast, and I like wake up, and then it's like parts where I was like, oh, this is interesting, like, oh, okay, like I got back into it, so I give it an 8 because Cary Grant, like I said, I'm not attracted, but I see the attraction, right? Because I can easily do that. I see the attraction, just not my cup of tan tea. I guess I'll call him, because he was very tan in this
He was very tan.
He was very tan. I just felt like the makeup on top of that. I was like, just get a black man into this. I mean, what are you doing?
I kind of blame the Technicolor. That might have been the Technicolor, but
because they don't know. They didn't know how to color, right?
They're like, what's the white balance on this thing?
Well, they had to do that post production with these films, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And so I was also, I mean, it was good. Eva Marie Saint is amazing. The villains are so like spoofy, like villains. I feel like these type of villains might get spoofed in later dates. But yeah, I thought this movie was great. I probably would watch it again simply because I would like to maybe dig a little deeper into the film itself a little bit more, to watch, multiple watches, you see things you didn't see, or you pick up on things, and so 8.
Sure. So I'm going to be the naysayers, strangely, as this is becoming more usual. I'm not sure I like that it's becoming more usual. This is another spy thriller. They don't do much for me, honestly, as a genre, and it did feel Bond-esque, which made me kind of go, okay, here we go. There are definitely interesting moments. One more snippet, if you will. Apparently, Eva Marie Saint found out that Cary Grant was going to fans on set and charging them 15 cents per autograph, which in 59 would have been a lot of money, and kind of sleazy. Either do or don't sign.
Not kind of sleazy.
Although these days, not really. Think about it. We go to cons and pay $80 for signatures. So is it anyway?
Oh, I don't want to talk about that right now.
No. I want to talk about it for one second.
It is $550.
It is sleazy. It's not. I feel like it's not sleazy now because people signed up to do that. You went there with the intention of
sure. You weren't at your job, somebody coming.
I'm not at my job saying hi to oh my God, can I? And you're like 15 cents, please. Come on, guys. We're all here making a movie. Your movie. You're getting paid. Sign my sock or whatever I gotta. You know what I mean? Stop.
Which I will say that actually helps put it in perspective, because I'll be very honest with you. When he goes to court and then they go to the mansion to investigate, and he looks at his mom and goes, "What do I do?" And she's like, "Just pay the $2." I'm sitting there going, that's all he got for drunk and disorderly.
No, okay. Officer. So I found out that's actually a reference to an old vaudeville act that actually was about a lawyer who was against his client, making the things worse for the client over and over. And the client was like, just pay the $2. Just pay the $2. So that's a reference to that.
Oh, yeah.
Where she's basically saying, just pay your penance and get out of this. So
Gotcha.
you're not right you're not wrong to think that it would have been cheaper or even low, because I thought the same thing. But going through the special features, I found that, which I thought was interesting.
Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah,
it was more of a slang term than it was anything else.
It was. And again,
sheesh.
This is Hitchcock doing throwbacks, right, to vaudeville. So he was doing stuff that we again take for granted these days. A lot of people that watch movies are like, "Oh wow, that's a remake," or "Oh wow, that's a throwback." I'm like,
now that was a good
not new.
Can I say this though? I do miss the word "gay" being used for being happy.
Yeah, that was interesting in the film.
Because he was just like, "You got me at this gay place or whatever, this gay restaurant," and I was like, "He means happy restaurant. I know he means happy restaurant."
It was family friendly, even is almost what.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. And so I was just like, I miss when terms weren't so ridiculous and disrespectful now. You know what I mean?
Thank people for that, right?
Well, it's the people who don't like the term being used in other ways that they have.
Humans are trash.
It's like.
Yeah, I think the panel agrees. A 10 out of 10 on that one.
10 out of 10 on humans being trash.
So the other little tidbit that I thought was interesting, and then I'll give my rating, and then we can move on, was Cary Grant leaving the place where the professor had taken him to kind of hold him as Eva Marie went off with the bad guys. And he tries to escape, and he goes through a patient's room, and she's like, "Hey,
know.
Hey.
She totally like shifts her like, yeah.
And he's
Yeah,
like,
she
he's
shifts
like,
her, yeah.
no, and just
Yeah, yeah.
leaves. I was like, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Was that like a play on
Yeah.
him?
That scene-
I don't know.
I
Was
feel like that
interesting?
scene like threw me off a little bit. I was like, what's happening here? I was like, is she?
They were trying to sell too hard that he was attractive. Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
no,
Maybe
it was a
it's
play on
not
him as an
all
actor
that.
or something from
Oh,
a
I'm
previous
like-
film, something.
Yeah.
Like, no way it was anything
It's
else.
kind of like that, you know. It's like maybe she sees something that nobody else can see, you know.
Right, because I don't see it.
So I give it a 7, by the way. It's a solid 7. Everybody should see this
But
film.
remember,
Okay, wait.
But it's
You were
not
giving me the
amazing.
downsinger, and that's all you gave it lower.
Yeah, 7.
I was
Exactly.
waiting for like a 4.
Oh no, it doesn't
No,
deserve a
I
4.
went to- I
The
thought you was
technical
gonna say a
aspects of
5.
this film, the shooting,
Yeah,
the
I mean,
B
it's
reel,
59.
like no, this
Yeah.
movie blew me away
It's-
from if I was behind the camera watching this movie get made, I would have been like, wow, this is
See,
amazing.
I think
Oh,
a
yeah.
7 based off of an 8, like that's like not a dissenting view.
When everybody
just
else is an 8, it's the low number. So yeah,
But remember, I was like a 7.5 before the fashion.
I know, but
came.
you gave
Right.
that high waist gave it an 8. So
I'm saying, man.
That's
gotta
the
love
I
that
right
rate,
high
I
waist.
rate.
Honestly, one of the best ones to do high waist is Jonathan Majors in Lovecraft Country.
oh yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
that. He looks
Oh,
good in
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Woo.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we've got 2 other movies, and I
Wearing
want to
tank
give them
tops,
plenty of
too.
time.
Over here.
This next segment, it sounds like Lala will be here, but getting spoiled because she was unable to
Yeah, that's
finish
fine.
the film. It does happen sometimes.
Only got like 48 minutes.
It's happened to me too. We have all been there, and that's okay. But we are going to move on to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I'm going to do the lead in on this one, mostly because I think for Brian and I, this movie is a little closer to home because this is actually an Oregon film. Yeah. It actually takes place an hour from both of us. It takes place in Salem, Oregon, an hour north of me and an hour south of him. And
Coos Bay.
and Coos Bay, right? And then the author of the book that the film is based on is actually from Springfield, Oregon, my sister city, and an Oregon native. Well, not native, but an Oregon transplant. Ken
Right.
Kesey. This film was adapted pretty quickly by not Frank Darabont. That's the next film. By why is my brain just giving a fart here? Kesey essentially sold the rights to the film. They started making the film, and the director immediately decided to take a completely different route than Ken Kesey's novel originally had. And Kesey didn't like that, so he swore the film off completely and actually never saw it, even to his death. He never saw the film because he hated the adaptation so much. Not that he could say he hated it because he didn't watch it, but
Right. Yeah. That's,
but the film is supposed to be from Chief's perspective, not from McMurphy's perspective, and they changed that completely. And I would imagine that changed the tone dramatically. But it's starring Jack Nicholson, and it is also starring a bunch of people. And I think in the Discord earlier we were talking about the people that are in this
Christopher
movie,
Lloyd.
right? You're like,
Man.
wait, what? These people, right?
yeah. DeVito. There's a funny story DeVito tells about they went to a Blazer game. He went to a Blazer game with Nicholson, and they sat in front row. You know, the courtside. Nicholson was even getting courtside back then,
Right.
and he DeVito had this huge thing of soda, and he spilled it all over the fucking court. Like it was like, yeah, it was
And
bad.
there's the F-bomb for the
Oh,
night.
sorry.
It's okay.
Damn.
You don't ever get one, so that's
I
great.
don't ever get one. Yeah. so-
Actually, and Brad Dorff was in this, and as we know, he
Right.
voices Chucky. So
Yeah.
And he's amazing in this. I think. I think
Yeah.
everybody's amazing in this film. But
they're so young, though. To see a
Yeah,
young
it's
Danny
crazy.
DeVito is just crazy to me. That's like,
Oh, and
Well,
Christopher
they're
Lloyd
really
with
great
actually
at it, too.
dark-colored hair.
yeah,
yeah.
there's also Vincent Scott Schiavelli who's in this, and then
Yeah.
the other big one would of course be Louise Fletcher playing Nurse Ratched, who does a phenomenal job.
Oh, Nurse Ratched. Oof.
So let's, because you only got to see the first half of the film, and I'd love to get you some input from you. Why don't you give us your kind of thoughts on the film that you have, the parts you have seen, and the tone, and we'll go from there. Black Girl Marvel.
Okay, so I'm trying to find this one guy that I saw in there that he's always in stuff. Oh yeah, you said his name Vincent. Vincent's always playing like these weird characters, which I think is just, like just great because he looks weird. So they were just like put him as the weird guy in everything we do, and like he's getting weird out of that. But
Nailed
you know what I mean? Every time. I am going to watch this film like pick up where I left off because I want to see how it ends. Even though I read about it, so I kind of knows what's going to happen, but I still want to see it. Like I told the guys before we started, I was like, this is top tier Jack Nicholson. I really feel like he was just playing himself, but maybe a little heightened in a way. But I feel like this was just like a role that was kind of like somebody saw him in something and was like, he'd be perfect for this. Like, cause it just seemed like his personality, like that you see him in like red carpets and on, interviews and things like that. From what I've seen, it looks like an interesting. What it's giving me? It's giving me Girl Interrupted vibes.
Right. Yeah.
I can see
which
that.
I'm pretty sure like they watched this film and was like, let's make a girl version because because if you think about it, that's what Girl Interrupted is kind of is. It's kind of like the female version of like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest because you have the character that comes in and kind of shakes things up, and that was I can't remember her name, but that was Winona Ryder's character. Was the character that kind of came in and shook things up. And Jack Nicholson's character is literally that character and Angelina Jolie's character like in one, because he's like the wild one that shakes things up, but he's also the new one that comes in and kind of like gets people to kind of have fun for once, because everything was subdued until he came. Everything was quiet. Everything ran on the schedule.
So subdued.
It's very subdued, and I'm assuming that's because of Nurse Ratched. Because anytime something happened, I think it was a scene where he's like verbally doing like the baseball game, and then like Danny DeVito comes in, and everybody comes in, and they're all like, "Woo!" And she's like, "All right, gentlemen, back to where we, calm down," and all this kind of stuff. And they're not doing it, and you could see the look on her eyes, and she's like, "This guy has more power than me," type of thing. Like that's for me where it got interesting, and I was just like. And he's breaking them out, and he's like, he stole a bus. So I enjoyed the first 48 minutes of this, even though it took like too long to get to this point for me. I was just like, did some of the talking I could have done without. To me, could have been maybe transitioned somewhere else within the film. But I gotta finish it too. So, but from the initial, from where I ended off, I think it's a great film, and I love to see young Jack Nicholson do things because even though I think a lot of my career is of watching him is young, but I'm younger, so for me he looks old because like in the 90s he was still like a pretty young guy when I was watching his films, but I'm like, this old man, I've been watching him for my whole life, and he wasn't old at that time. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
All right, Mr. Marvelite.
Yeah, it was funny because like my first thought was when he was going into the asylum was kind of like, oh, so this is what happened when Jack Nicholson left the Overlook Hotel.
Partially shot in Oregon also.
What I thought was really interesting was exactly right. But what I thought was interesting was his character. Like there was no reason for us to like root for him. Like when they go through the explanation of why he was there, like he was too lazy to work the work camp. He was like arrested for statutory rape.
That was his first offense too.
Yeah, and like you look at like even his explanation, like he just like passed it off, and like that would not fly. And you're given this like this idea of him, and he was this sleazy guy, but what he did was he challenged people. He didn't accept things the way they were. And I think that's the whole purpose for me. Like when I was watching, like, Nurse Ratched, I don't think was necessarily a bad person or an antagonist until you realize she wasn't doing anything to help improve those guys.
Yeah.
It was the idea of the illusion of control, the illusion of calm for them. There was no challenging, and the only thing that Jack Nicholson's character did was challenge their way of thinking, and in doing that, they were able to build respect for themselves. And unfortunately, it was a mixture of him leading them on and her holding them back that ended up with the I don't want to spoil this for Black Marvel, but like led to the event with one of the characters near the end.
I know what happened.
Okay.
She read the spoilers.
So when that kid, when that kid like gets in this position, and I really feel like when she said that she knew his mom, like I'm thinking that is a massive overstep for a medical professional.
Well, and a red flag.
That really bothered me. Yeah,
using that to manipulate.
That was the moment when I realized like how messed up she was. Like she was there to control them, And we saw it because like she didn't want them to have the voting privileges. Like she ended it before Chief could raise his hand. You have her like just having problems, even encouraging the fact that Nicholson's character should stay in the hospital, which would have solved a lot of problems for her if she would have just let him go back.
Right.
But
that's not what she wanted.
She wanted to
right,
assert some power over him.
Yeah, and then the ending, like there was a lot of this that like it was very jarring. Like I see, and again, I think this is great when we go back and we look at older films like North by Northwest and this. You can see a lot of films that have come out after this film that were inspired by it. And let's say the characters were not as, and I don't use this phrase lightly, but douchey as Jack Nicholson's character was, but definitely they go in, they're in a bad situation. It helps improve themselves and then in turn improving other people. But this was complete opposite from what we see in Shawshank Redemption. And this was like the exact opposite of Shawshank Redemption for me.
In some ways, all the movie things.
Posting.
I was gonna say
Oscar winner update. Jane Campion.
So that's Power of the Dog, right?
Yep.
All right.
Okay. This movie, One Floor of the Cuckoo Nest. I really love this. I want to pose this theory that I look at the hero's journey a lot whenever I watch a movie. This one is almost like, so how it normally goes is like your protagonist or what have you goes through the normal world, which is the world they live in, and then things kick off and they leads them into eventually going into the new world to them. I think the hospital and all of them as a group, that is the normal world. It's more of the character, really. And then Jack Nicholson's character is the new world coming in and showing them, hey, this is a new thing. Because all those things happen, because the hero's journey still happens. It's just we're not following one specific protagonist.
So you're saying the story is the hero's journey, is the hero in this case, not, and the characters are the backdrops that provide us going through that. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, basically. Because
is he a hero? Because didn't he rape a girl?
No, he's not the hero.
He's not the hero.
No. I'm saying because he can't be a hero because like he raped a girl.
Well, I mean, the term hero is usually used just as protagonist. So you can put, you don't have to like technically be a hero. But the thing is, because we never see Jack Nicholson's normal world, we just see him immediately coming to the hospital, and we don't know like what's his, you know what I mean? So, but when we first see the film, we see like we're introduced to the normal day-to-day kind of things that those other characters are experiencing in the hospital, and then Jack Nicholson comes and turns everything upside down. So for me, I feel like he's like the new world coming into these people's lives and flipping everything upside down. But
he's also one of the few people who aren't there voluntarily, which I thought
exactly. Yeah. And I and like Lala mentioned, it's like, I mean, this is like stellar. Like that was a thing that right away was just kicking off for me was Nicholson's performance is, I mean, the same.
You got those cuffs off. I was like,
right. Yeah, exactly. Like the instant he gets those cuffs off, it's like, whoa, okay. He's just like unhinged. And the thing is like this thing like dominated, this thing won like 5 Academy Awards. Nicholson being one of them.
Yeah, it's like the first to win in like all the major, like the second.
It's one of 3, I think, but it's not like it never happens.
Yeah, it never happens. It's this one. It's I think in 1981 it was Silence of the Lambs, and there was one more. I can't remember the other one. I looked up stuff, y'all.
The other one was way earlier. I think I wrote this one down, but
the other one was like in 1934 or something like that. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah. So, yeah, really great. I mean, I love seeing Oregon, of course, and
and it's the majority of the shots are like authentic downtown Salem and the Salem like, hospital, and
I mean, and everything on the boat, all that boat stuff is in Coos Bay, which is funny because like where the hospital is, location wise, is nowhere near.
It's
Coos
like
Bay,
an hour and a half.
Yeah,
and they make more than that. 3 hours away.
Yeah, and they just like take this bus to freaking this boat that's not even close to it. Really, I loved it. It was really great, and there's a reason why it kind of stands up as this classic film. So
For myself, I hadn't seen this since I was probably 14 or 15. And I think I watched it because it was one of the movies my parents watched. So I was like, oh, this has to be interesting somehow. So I watched it, and I don't think I got it. You know, you get the principle, but I don't think I understood it the way I do now. And this time around, it was kind of a shock to me because McMurphy reminds me almost exactly of my father. And I got to watch what my father would have been like unhinged, which was something he kept under wraps a lot. So it really kind of impacted me in a very strange way. And I don't know. All of the ridiculousness, the fighting that he got in trouble for, the statutory rape, my father was just that kind of terrible human. And it just got to be put right up there on screen for me. And then, of course, my dad is from Oregon. And all these kind of things that kind of tied into the film as well from the era. He would have been of similar age to McMurphy's character and everything. So it was just hard for me to watch from that sense. And it's also a powerful film. Like when you get to the end, it's freaking devastating. Like it's not just like, oh yeah, okay, life moves on. No, it leaves you kind of raw, like a nerve. At least it did me. And I do like it, but it's not a movie I'm going to run around watching regularly. I don't think I'll hit this one up again for a few years. But I do think everyone should see this film. I absolutely do. So
Mr. Marmalade and McMurphy the same age.
Yeah, I thought about that too. I'm thinking, Nicholson didn't look too bad a couple years ago, except for when he was hitting on what's her face? Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence. Like that was creepy. Yeah. So hopefully I won't look like that, or I won't do that.
I feel like that's him though. I just like that's Jack Nicholson.
Like, hey there, I'm a big fan of yours.
And she got real flattered by. She was like,
yeah, she said she liked that, but
yeah, he's that type of human where it's just like Jack Nicholson, like pitches you on the butt because that's who he is. You're like, Jack Nicholson pinched me on the butt.
I would tell people if Jack Nicholson pinched me on the butt.
I would too. I wouldn't be offended. Anytime I see him, I just poke it out just a little bit. Like,
oh no, I think if Jack Nicholson pinched me on the butt, I'd be talking about it for other reasons. But it's like, be
like, Jack, give me a kickback, or we're gonna have to have a deeper discussion.
Yeah.
Honestly, I felt like Hollywood saw Jack Nicholson, loved him, put him in everything that they could until he was like, you know what, I'm done. I just want to be on courtside watching my basketball games because he's loved basketball for like a long time. And I think they were like, we need a new Jack Nicholson. Who can we get? And they were like, Christian Slater. And like Christian Slater to me is like the new was like a new Jack Nicholson. They was like, we need
the 90s Jack Nicholson, if you will.
The 90s. He has like the voice.
Like a lot of
his
stuff.
voice is like crazy. His voice is like that.
Well, and he plays crazy well. Like they both play crazy well.
You could honestly, I feel like you could put Christian Slater in any like Jack Nicholson movie and just be like, go do what he did.
See, I want to go back to the 90s now and have Christian Slater play Jack Nicholson in a biopic.
I would love that. I would cry probably. I would be like, this is my dream casting. Because they both have this very, like, Jack Nicholson has, like, this very, like, swarmy type of voice, type of, like, you can hear it, but if you have to really lean in to listen to it. And Christian Slater has that same type of, like, odd type of voice.
Hey, guys, let's just go for the...
Honestly, yes.
So are you saying you want to see Christian Slater play the Joker now? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I mean, either he gonna play him in an animation or live. I wouldn't mind it.
It's true. He has done some animation. So there are definitely some tones within this film that are now this movie would not get made the way it is now. I don't think. Yeah. I think it might, but not quite the same way. I think A24 or somebody would probably pick it up because it is a good screenplay, and I think it could get made. But I think a lot of the tropes would have been dropped, especially the racist tropes. Yeah. What?
I mean, I feel like if they weren't dropped,
why did Biggie just like maybe lose track?
Oh, sorry. I was like, that was an odd laugh.
No, if they weren't dropped, I feel like it'll be more. I feel like it would be more inclusion. So like racist moments or racist tropes would make more sense, and then you might have somebody say something back because like the only minority in the thing was Chief.
As far as in the
It was cheap,
facility,
really,
on the
yeah.
second
In
floor,
in
there
the
were
facility.
people. There were a variety of people up there, but they had no.
I meant like
Yeah,
in the cast
right.
though, like in the cast of like people who have lines or speaking,
Yeah.
even though he barely spoke, was cheap. So I feel like if they made this today or took elements from this today, it would be way more inclusive. It'd be way more people of color, way more. Because I was just like, you got a lot of people of
Mhm.
color working there, but you don't have a lot of
Yeah,
people of
right.
color like actually in the institution itself. So,
Yeah, they were all
Yeah,
in
yeah.
charge. They were the orderlies, and they could
yeah,
take some punches. Those guys got thrashed, and
man.
had no problems. It seemed. I don't know. Did you guys like Billy? Did you guys think that that needed to go down that way? Do you think Nurse Ratched? I think maybe the question is: do you think Nurse Ratched was right, other than using some of those tactics? Like, was she willfully doing what she was doing, or was she just following the system that was in place in the 1970s?
Probably a
Mm,
little bit of both, but I think this is why we have HIPAA laws now.
yeah.
Specifically, like the HIPAA laws didn't come into play until the Bill Clinton era, and you didn't have this right to privacy. And what she did would be a huge overstep nowadays,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to mental health.
Oh yeah.
That's even more protected. If you live in the United States and you're over the age of 13, you have a right to privacy when it comes to mental health. So if you guys didn't know that, just
Now
FYI.
you do know.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yes, now you do know. See, my job's coming out of me. But like the intention that she did to guilt trip that kid specifically, like she shut down everybody else and the process. But when you think of like the electrotherapy, you think of the lobotomy. Those were all. There's a great I think it was on a podcast called Serial. They talked about lobotomies and they talked about how they were overused and that they were shown to have no benefit whatsoever in the treatment. They were just they were considered a low cost way to save on medication for like anesthetizing people and stuff. And so it was really it goes back to the fact that we have a mental health like had a mental health crisis even back then because
Right.
these hospitals and wards don't exist nowadays.
Mm.
It's short stay or their
I mean,
rehabilitation.
it's funny because that hospital that they shot in is not operating anymore.
Right.
Either
Right.
the actual one in Oregon here is not. It's a
Yeah.
museum now. Yeah.
So this hospital that they use, the Salem State Hospital, also reminds me of another hospital that Oregon's famous for, which is Fairview Hospital, where they did very similar things to people with disabilities, not just people with mental. What's the word I'm looking for without going down the wrong paths? So without mental illness, there was also the physical disabilities and mental disabilities that were completely separated from the people with mental illnesses and treated even worse than what you see in this film. This film is light and fluffy compared to what they were doing in places like Fairview. And I only know about this because I worked in the field for a while, and it's just awful, especially knowing that this was very normal. This was the way we treated people. And I think that's part of the reason this film did well. It was highlighting something we all needed to pay attention to as a country.
Yep. And it's brought up a lot in media. It's done a lot of times. This concept, if you've watched the FX show Legion, it's very similar to that with that character there. Even in comic books, this is what's being related. If you go back and look at, we're talking about things coming up in the future with Moon Knight. Mark Spector has DID, and there is a storyline right now in the Infinity Comics. If you look on like Marvel Unlimited, where a Mutt or whatever, I believe, I can't remember the name of the villain specifically, the god is basically has Mark Spector convinced that he's been in an insane asylum his entire life, and he is projecting because he knows there's a character called Moon Knight, and that all of the previous stories have been him just in this mental hospital, and it's very reminiscent to all of this, and just that concept of people being like shut out or shut in. It's just not handled properly.
I just wanted to say on the whole Nurse Ratched thing is that like the question you asked me, I feel like I feel like a little bit of both. I feel like she started off as somebody that really wanted to do her job, and then she found out that she could do it even better if she manipulated the system along the way and manipulated people along the way. Because like all the movie things, and Aina 3 said, and the thing she was like, well, she's a nurse. Like, what does she know about therapy? Exactly, which makes me think that either you know the therapist really good that y'all sit and talk about it, or you go and you look at the files so you have dirt on your residents. So it's one of the two. Either way, is you're doing unethical things.
Oh yeah.
Because obviously, because I know what happens to him at the end. So like obviously his mother is a trigger. His mother is probably why he stutters. So either his mother is abusive or she does something to him in some type of way that he stutters. And right when he found his confidence, she triggered him. And in fear of his biggest like trigger coming for him, or the reason why he committed himself was because of this, to probably not see her, to not interact with her, he would rather die. You know what I mean? So like,
and Ratchet knew that.
She knew that, you know what I mean? Like,
and then he was voluntarily there, you know.
Exactly.
One of the ones.
You know, like, yeah, like he's there because he does not want to see her. He does not want to interact with her. He does not. So she knew that. I don't know if she knew that he would like kill himself, but I feel like she knew that she could. I feel like she knew that she could manipulate him enough with that bit of information.
I don't think she thought he would have killed himself. I don't think.
No, I don't think she would have thought that either. But I also don't think she cared. At the same time,
she was looking for
he's another one type of thing.
But
too.
I think she cared. I do. I think she cared in a shallow way. These are her patients, if you will. I don't think she wanted to see them go anywhere because she would lose power if they go away. So like that's one less person she has power over. So it's I think part of her cared, but she cared less in the moment because she was losing power. So she was going for the power grab over the emotion or the empathetic thing to do. That's also why that's weird because then when it comes to McMurphy, she kind of did the opposite, didn't she? One less person to deal with. So,
well, he had more power than her.
That's
true.
What
I mean, like she does, he had more power than her. So like, it's one of those like, let's not get him out of here because he embarrassed me. So let's take away his power, which she essentially did. So now he's just there.
Right.
So he's just there.
She could get out of him what she couldn't get out of the other residents. The residents were already in compliance with her. She was wanting to break him, and that was like the whole thing. Like she wanted control over him too. And I think the fact that he didn't improve over the time that he was there, she wanted to control him. I mean, he was only supposed to be there for 5 days, and then at day 63, they're deciding to keep him in.
Oh, but give you as long as we want, didn't you know?
Yeah, and it's like, and going through that, and like, when she brought that up. And she brought up that all of them were there voluntarily, with the exception of like 2 of them. That was her method of trying to break him and break his will, because he realized unless he got with the program for her, he wasn't going to go anywhere. And that's why he blew up and said, "You let me do this. You let me say all these things to her, knowing that she had the power to keep me." And he got, extremely upset. But instead
she honestly shouldn't even have that power. But...
Right.
The therapist should have that power. He should be able to be like assess.
That therapist was paid way too much to be on that floor with those people. That's what it really boiled down to. They had one therapist for the whole floor. He was there looking at records. Like that's at least the way it seemed. Like there was no. He never went there. Right? He never actually went and interacted with them, which is weird.
Yeah. Well, that was actually very common. I've actually watched some documentaries. They would oftentimes use the nurses that do the group therapy because they really didn't believe in it. They were looking at ways of experimenting with people, and so that's why the whole shock therapy, the lobotomy stuff, that was actually their preferred because they just wanted to control the people. They weren't really trying to rehabilitate.
I feel like that's
that even goes into.
Were for. I feel like all mental hospitals were for, especially like when they first were created, like back then, was to
they were just holding places. They
was easy access to people that you didn't have to like go snatch and find. They literally sent you people that you can experiment on.
We'll look at
go chalk it up and write it off as like, well, they did this and this is why they this happened.
It was therapy.
And listen, it's stylized. It's stylized in other movies that we've seen. Let's go back to Sweeney Todd. Even though that's very stylized to the era, you had asylums that they were selling the girls' hairs off. They were basically trying to find any way they could profit off of their patients when they really weren't being rehabilitated at all. And it'll even overlap into Shawshank Redemption, where it's like they're not preparing these people for the real world. They're not preparing for the rehabilitation. that's the problem that America has with incarcerations. Yeah, there are some people that probably should be locked away and never let out, but there are also people there that have a chance to change and to grow and could actually be helped. And we're not doing that for them. We're not helping those people. All we're doing is we're just making it a revolving door of going back in.
That's still, unfortunately, wildly true. Thank you very much for the new follow, Mr. Mostly Mediocre. I had to say that.
But you're
name
probably not mediocre with us.
No, probably not. Welcome to the Real Study, and welcome to the chat with the real students. Jump in, say what you feel about the films. Let's go ahead and rate this film because we do have another one we want to get to, and I know we're going to have plenty to say about that film as well. Why don't we go in the same order? Or Lala, would you like to hold your review till after you see the film?
Yeah, I'll hold my review because I'll probably give like a 4. Like
Fair
right
enough.
now because it's so yeah.
It's 4 because frankly, I haven't seen the other 6.
I'm only 48 minutes.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Mr. Marvelite.
So for me, what I would take off a lot of points for this is the fact that we made Jack Nicholson's character and his backstory the main protagonist, and that it almost kind of looked over the whole statutory rape and all that kind of stuff. Like, this was a trash human being in the first place, and then you kind of make him like this guy who's breaking the system and helping people. That doesn't fly too well for me. Now, I get it. There are people that can do bad things and they deserve a chance to rehabilitate, but at the same time, it's not by looking over their behaviors or their actions. And they really skimmed over that quickly. So that took a lot out for me. I did like Chief. I think seeing Chief's growth was actually the best. And this is actually, since you mentioned the fact that the author of the book did not watch the movie out of like disappointment that they changed the focus. I will probably go back and read the book because I think if it's from Chief's perspective, I would actually like to see that, because I think Chief had more of a development, even though they really didn't focus on him than the rest. And then you had, the kid, and that was like really tragic. And you saw this like hope for him to be better and to do better. And then you just see it just kind of go down the drain. So I would probably say I'm going to give this a 5. It's a good film. I'm not sure if I'm going to go back and watch it again. But I'm glad I did watch it, and I'll probably enjoy the book more, just, thinking about what the focus is.
Fair enough. All the movie things.
I have to give this an 8. Jack Nicholson's performance is just incredible. And I kind of feel like Chief's perspective is still kind of preserved in a way, because I mean, Nicholson's character doesn't. I mean, we don't. There's no like redemption for him. You know what I mean? But when we see Chief, kind of like, kind of come to his own, in a way, and like, one of my favorite moments is when they're on the bench together with the juicy fruit. Like, I love that. Like, that is so yeah. I mean, that was like a turning point for Chief, I think. Like, he felt he could kind of trust in McMurphy a little bit. So yeah, it's just one of those films that, I mean, that kind of, yeah, I mean, I don't know, Mr. Marvelite's got some good points there regarding like the type of character he is, like, and I almost wonder if like, was the development of this character because they had Nicholson on board before they even like cast anything else, kind of situation. But
yeah,
it was just a vehicle for Nicholson, really. But yeah, I still really enjoyed it and give it an 8.
To that point, I think that it's a 1975 film, so it speaks to the era and the way that we took that kind of thing less seriously than we do now. And I'm glad that we take it more seriously. I also think that, like you said, Brian, there is no redemption for McMurphy. What he does is essentially pass on his confidence and his mountainous of a man, if you will, onto all of the other characters. They all find their voice because of him, and in spite of his flaws. And I think that shows that you can find inspiration from anywhere, even if the inspiration is flawed, without it being glorifying. Because I think the way that McMurphy goes out is it's suitable for his character.
Right.
He goes out in a really humiliating, terrible way. He's lobotomized
Yeah.
and then snuffed out by his current best friend, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of the right way to take out a character who did what he did. If you're going to,
Which is funny because of how he went out was done in like a vindictive way, but like the lobotomizing, but what Chief did was like an act of love.
Right.
When I read it, I was like, that's like an act of love, because like if that's his friend or his close friend, he knows that now he's a former shell of himself.
Well,
and
Chief
like,
even says, "I'm taking you with me." So to Chief, I think he literally thinks, "Look, I'm just going to kill you, and your spirit's going with me, and we're leaving. We're going to Canada."
Right.
And that's poetic to me. Like that's beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
And on
it's
that
more
level,
than he deserves, though.
well, no, it is. But from Chief's perspective,
But
he gave him
but
his
from
voice.
Chief's perspective,
literally.
he did right for sure.
So for me, this is a 9. There's a reason it got solid Academy Awards across the board. The actor is actually the actor that plays Chief is actually from Oregon. He was a forest ranger just up in one of the national parks here, and they were like, "You're big enough to play the part. Come play the part."
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of cool. So yeah,
We get it,
Okay.
Oregon.
So
star.
I will say
Yes, it
this:
is.
like,
we don't
based
get
on
it very
what you
often.
said-
So yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So let me
have
just amend
terrible
this real
tax
quick.
exempts.
Based on what you said in like in Murphy's ending, I actually will agree. I'll give it a 6.5.
Ooh,
I'm
I
gonna change my-
raised it. Ooh.
I'll raise it for that because I do feel like that was a fitting ending for him.
Right.
Right.
Like if it would have like him going off into the sunset and him being,
I take credit
Yeah.
for that.
I would
for
have
that
like given it less,
too.
but
I feel like me and Snitty worked together to get that little point
It's that
five up
kismet,
there.
right? That kismet's working.
You know what I mean? I feel like we worked
that
our
word,
magic.
that word,
That word.
I
That
hear that.
word.
So with that said, we will get Lala's review of that film next week. Hopefully, we'll see how that goes. But we're going to move on to the final film of the evening, which is The Shawshank Redemption, story written by Stephen King, filmed by Frank Darabont, starring Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins, among many others. And it is, I don't think we need to go further than that, other than just. When did you guys see this the first time? And
Oh man.
what did you think? I know that this is Lala's first time for Shawshank.
Yeah,
Ooh,
it is.
damn.
So I'd like to just go straight to Mr. Marblette because you were the last person for me to go to first. So let's go ahead and do that.
You know, I honestly cannot remember like when I first saw this movie. Like I know I was younger. Like it may have been shortly after it came out on like home release or was on like on HBO or something. It was just one of those things like for me, Tim Robbins, we were talking about this last night on the live. You know, I like Tim Robbins because there was that whole hula hoop movie. I can't remember what it's called now.
The Hudsucker Proxy.
Yes, the Hudsucker Proxy. And so I was kind of going off of that, and then of course I then noticed that Morgan Freeman was in this. Now I may have been slightly misled because when I found out that it was written by Stephen King, I was expecting like you know, Pet Sematary stuff. So as a teenager, like as a kid, I was probably disappointed because I loved like Pet Sematary as a kid. And so, you know, there's that level of it, but then I got really sucked into these characters. You have, you know, this guy that comes in and he finds it every way to wheel and deal and get like a better benefit in the prison, even though it doesn't always work out so well. And he's seen this investment, and then the side characters, the amount of like diligence that they gave to the side characters, and the one that got free and then ended up wanting to go back, and like you have like
Brooks,
this, just like this, like this real good like explanation of like they're being life out of prison, not just all these like horrible murderers, like these guys that this is their life and they don't know anything outside of that, and being it's like the decision of either you're going to be resigned in prison or you're going to aspire to something different. And yeah, I love the film. All
right, Black Girl Marvel.
I think I remember seeing the trailer on some VHS tape I had, and then never watched it before in my life. So this is actually the first time I've seen Shawshank Redemption. My friend loves it. Like she's like, you know, like she loves it. I was shocked a little bit in this film because I didn't expect to like it, if I'm being honest, because I'm just like, prison movie, black man. I just had negative connotations off the bat about it. And so I was just like, and it was 1994, and so I'm just like, nah, this is not gonna be good. And I I was highly highly surprised because what's his name? Tim Robbins. I think the first time I remember seeing him is he's in that movie with Nothing to Lose with Martin Lawrence. The first time I remember seeing Tim Robbins. It's a movie called Nothing to Lose.
Yeah.
And that's like the first time I saw Tim
know that
Robbins. So
movie.
like, and he's like super
That's
like
funny.
it's a comedy. It's a super funny like movie.
And
It's
he's
like,
kind of an ass in that movie.
yeah, but it's also like I could quote that movie. It's the scenes from that movie that like I just love. So like to kind of go back at the beginning of his career and a little bit to see what he did, see him to work alongside somebody as great as Morgan Freeman, their connection. It's kind of kismet, if I'm gonna put a term to it. It's just, their connection is pretty great. Also, it was nice to see Morgan Freeman he's always like an old man, even when he was young, but like to see him like kind of like in his bag, kind of like in his actor bag, that was nice to see. I think the storyline was great. I think that each person's, it's kind of like what Brian was talking about, like you have like the protagonist come in and he changes everything. Like he literally, like we literally see his world, and it's not that great. Even though he's telling the truth the entire time, but he's so droll that it's like nobody believes him because he's so like matter of fact about it. But it's like, yeah, you did it. And so you see him go from this world to this new world in which he influences greatly and has more pull than maybe even anybody else in there. He changes the infrastructure of this building, like from the ground up, and then is able to reap the benefits of that by escaping himself. And so it's just like, I don't know, it was just a great film. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I didn't think I was. Nice. The film ended with me being like, that was pretty good. Like I said it out loud.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
All right. All the movie things.
This is a near perfect movie to me. I've seen this multiple times. I don't remember the first time I saw it, but I remember loving it the first time I saw it. I mean, this thing was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, did not win a single one.
Not one.
Including my boy, Mr. Roger Deakins. I finally got his book, by the way. I love this thing. Roger Deakins shot this, so of course that gets extra points for me because it's a beautiful film. And another one he didn't win that he should have won, but whatever. I mean, it's just an incredible film. I mean, and like Mr. Marvel, made the point of like, was something that I always think about too is like, there's like all these characters in it, but they do a really good job of giving them all their own little like arc and their own like depth and everything. It's so just like fills the world in Shawshank better.
Yeah, it makes it more real.
Well, the Shawshank itself felt like it had a bit of a character as well to it. They did a good job of finding the right place to shoot the film. Deakins probably helped with, of course, making it feel the way that it did.
And also just the acting, how real it is, like how Brooks left and it was just like, I don't feel comfortable out of here. Like literally this is my home. Like this prison has become my home. I know nothing else but this home. And like I knew he was gonna kill himself immediately when he was just like he was like again, it's one of those, been watching a whole bunch of movies my whole life. It's one of those things where when he goes like, I feel scared, I was like, he's gonna kill himself because he doesn't, like, he has no family. I'm pretty sure he's been here for 50 years. Either his family has moved on and he doesn't know where they are, or he's the last of his people, or the last, you know what I'm saying, of his whatever. And so it's just like, I was like, and then for Morgan Freeman's character to have that same feeling, I'm like, please don't die, just go find him.
I think they did a great job. This is one of the few movies where they actually do narration well, and I wish more movies would pick up narration as a means to telling internal stories, because we don't get it as often in film as maybe we could, and if done right, it's great. And I love that even with the Brooks moment, it's still narrated, but it's because he wrote them a letter before he killed himself, and we got to hear that letter.
Right, that's why he knows.
Right.
But is it that they use the narration well, or is it because it's Morgan Freeman?
No. So Brooks
It's a little bit
Didn't-
both.
Well, a little bit of that, yeah.
Didn't Brooks
Yeah.
read his own letter?
You read the
I think
dictionary, and I would maybe there for
The
it.
No,
actor,
Brooks wrote-
yeah, we got to hear Brooks read his own letter.
Yeah.
So
Right,
like, I think
yeah.
that like maybe if there were
But
a
Morgan
handful more
Freeman's
letters.
narrating.
Oh no, don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. So Frank Darabont even said that while in the book in Stephen King's novel,
Yeah.
Red is actually played by an Irishman. Red, Irish, right?
Oh yeah.
So and his last name is actually Redding. So his name was Redding and he's Irish, so his name is Red.
Hmm.
So that's why they joke, and he's like, "Yeah, didn't you know I'm Irish?" It's
Yeah.
because they're alluding to
Yeah.
the book.
Right.
But Darabont said no. From the
Yeah.
get-go, he knew that Morgan Freeman was the guy because of the narration. So you aren't wrong. That is totally
Yeah.
the reason.
That was a good choice.
It really
but I also
was.
think it's
Yeah.
how it's how the narration is played throughout the whole film, right?
Mhm.
Like you get it in the beginning, obviously you get it at the end, so it's bookend. But then the way that it's like dispersed throughout the film, it elevates, right? It doesn't detract from the movie. It gives you extra things in the movie. It doesn't make you be like, okay, God, he's talking again. Like I'm trying to watch these things. It's like, okay, I gotta listen because he's going to say some important things that are going to inform what I need to watch. So like it elevated the movie. Honestly, I feel like the movie would be totally different if it didn't have it.
Agreed. So this movie for me, I also don't remember the first time I've seen it because I've seen it probably dozens of times. There's a reason, and Lala, I think you're going to jump right on board with this, but there's a reason it's considered the greatest film in almost a ton of categories. Not every single list, but it tops most lists for a reason. This film was the film that when I early on was collecting movies, this was VHS era, because this would have still been on VHS when it came out. I had this movie and maybe 45 or so other VHS because they weren't cheap, and I was young, I didn't have a lot of money. And I rented a lot of movies, right? Because of Blockbuster. But this is one of the movies I owned. And so when you own 50 films and you love movies, you end up watching those movies over and over again. So this is one of those movies I just threw in every 3 weeks or whatever and just bore the tape out. So watching it this time, it had been a long time. And it didn't miss. It still hit. I still cried. I still got emotional in the same parts. I still wanted to get in there and beat up on the sisters. Leave him alone. We don't need Andy Dufresne getting hurt.
Wait, did you watch it on your VHS tape again?
No, I don't have that VHS. I have like 5 VHS left, and they're they're
I have so many VHS left in storage. It's crazy.
right there.
Yeah.
So.
No, see, have you guys ever seen the movie Sleepers?
So yes,
Yeah. Sleepers is
that is an
messed
effed up movie. Yeah,
So
good movie.
I was born in '86, and that movie came out in '96, and I watched it in '96. I was like a 10-year-old watching this film, and yeah, I watched a lot of things as a
What?
child.
So you have a very interesting view of Kevin Bacon.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
It'd be hard for me
so
to
the
get past
scene-
that.
Yeah.
So the scene with the sisters took me back to that film, and then for him to just be like, all right, let's get this over with. He's such a character that has such a resolve about himself that I don't think I've seen in a lot of characters to date. Like his resolve, his look on hope. Because I think honestly, the only thing that drove him out throughout this whole thing was him internally knowing that he's innocent. Even though I think after a while it kind of washed away. He was like, whether I'm innocent or not, I'm here. I know what I'm going to do. It's just going to take time, and I have to have the resolve to make it so. And I feel like he has, I don't know, the most resolve of anybody. The only other character I've seen have this much resolve is Ichigo Kurosaki. He's an anime character. Like that's the only person. It's just crazy.
Hey, can we just say this real quick? And I'm not going to try to be political in this because I know we want to make this an open zone, but that when you consider that with that character, and it resonates so much because there are men and women in jail right now that are innocent. And they are living that life right now that they know they're innocent. They have no hope of getting out, whether they have pro bono lawyers that are trying to help them with the Innocence Project or something. That we are living with a broken system. And whenever we would talk about anything with like incarceration, we talk about Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile, you have these characters that have been in the wrong place, and in a lot of cases it's because of the color of their skin or the location that they are or how poor they are, that no one can protect, that people will not, be willing to support them because they just assume that, they're the type of person that should be in jail anyway. It's sad, and it really is. And we dramatize in this movie, and we appreciate Shawshank Redemption, but a lot of people, I think there are some people that, have either been released because they've been found innocent or that are in jail that would never want to see this film. So
that's fair. Can we switch gears and talk about the amazing Clancy Brown and how that guy continues to bring it every movie he ever does, and you want to you hurt that guy.
Y'all gonna think I'm weird because I said Cary Grant is unattractive, but I think Clancy Brown is a handsome dude.
Man, throw some high-waisted pants on that man.
Listen, you can roll the sleeves up on that guy. Come on, roll the sleeves up. Listen. If they could put a pack of cigarettes right there, roll the sleeve up, I'm here for it. But, but honestly, I think like sometimes my attraction to like maybe oddly looking individuals is their acting ability. Right,
Mr.
I'm very attracted.
Right.
Yeah, I'm very attracted.
Mr.
Yes, I'm very attracted to like talent, and I feel like
he's got a good voice too. Like
he has a great the timbre of his voice. Okay,
right.
But it's like. Acting ability is like, because I'm an actor and I love it. It's like I focus in on that. I'm like, ooh, that's a good looking dude. Look at the way he said that line, or look, he decided to do this thing, and it's just like to me, Clancy Brown brings it in anything that I've seen him in, and I'm just like, that's a good looking dude right there.
But there's so many roles,
right?
There's so many roles where Clancy Brown plays that's so likable. Like even in Starship Troopers, you're like, oh, he's the sergeant. What a nice guy. Even though he's a total hard ass, you still like him, right? But in this, I want to hurt him so bad in this movie. Along with the warden. The warden is just pure scum.
Yeah, the warden was a coward. He went out the coward's way.
Yeah. He saved us a lot of red tape. I'll just say that. With his red paint, if you will. That was terrible.
That was.
I'll take it. I'll take it. No, I gotta stay. So the way they used Dufresne to just start manipulating the system, I love the way that starts to roll out. So first they see, oh, he's a smart guy. He can figure this out. He's doing the library thing. And then they slowly figure out that he can do taxes and he can do all these various things.
Yeah.
And they all start using him. And I think there's a little bit of naivety there because I don't think he really thought about the long haul, like what he was doing and what that meant if the warden ever wanted to pull something on him. So I think he could have thought ahead a little more on that. But I think you're right, Lala. His resolve for everything he did was always with one intent, and that was that boat. He wanted that boat. Yeah. And it's all he cared about. And eventually he was like, well, Red can come hang out on the boat, I think. Yeah. I think eventually he made that decision.
I agree with the naivete, though, because he's not realizing how much he's seeing. He's not realizing how much he's booking, like things like that. And I feel like I don't think he really gave thought to that. I don't really think, because I thought he was just like, he thought he was like indispensable. And he kind of was, but also it was like, okay, but I can make your life terrible, but still get you to do what I want you to do. Like he really kind of didn't have leverage. And I think once he found that out, he figured out what his leverage, or like he figured out what his means to an end had to be. You know what I mean? So I feel like the warden like messed himself up at that end. It's
you
like,
don't think he had the plan to do that all along with those kind of offshore style accounts? Not that they're offshore, but
I'm sure he did, because he created the person that didn't exist for a reason. But I feel like he was in it. I feel like he was okay where he was, honestly, for a while. Like I felt like he was I feel like that hole was made a long time ago, and he was actually enjoying being in a certain position of power and helping people get their GEDs, I think he was okay with that for a while. But then when he got disrespected, when he found out he was innocent, and the warden didn't care because all he cared about was his bottom line, I think that's when he was like, all right, it's time for me to go. And then you killed a kid that was kind of like my protege, that only because he knew. I feel like it became enough. He was like, you know what, it's time. I'll try to help. I did enough. Whatever I did in my past, I cleaned up. It's time for me to go. I think he would have stayed if the warden would have showed, or at least tried to fight for him in the way that he's been protecting the warden.
He would have been let out.
He would have been let out. I know he would. No, but the warden was smart enough to be like, yeah, put the papers through, but don't let it go through. You know what I mean? Like
he could have taken them and then thrown them in the trash.
He could have taken it a long time ago. He could have like, they sent stuff back. They said no, but he went the opposite way.
But the warden and Ratchet
like,
are the same characters with this power dynamic.
They
had
they
power,
he went home to her.
And he didn't even like the idea of Dufresne having that power over him. He didn't even like the idea of it.
No, not at all.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I love when he was like, "Are you obtuse?" I was like, "That's great." I'm using that with everybody now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's funny.
Obtuse? Like
these movies are very similar because even in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, there's a point where he talks about, or when one of the characters brings up peculiar as a word, and they're all like, "That's not a word. That's not a word."
Yeah.
So there's a lot of tropes.
Christopher Lloyd was like going off about peculiar being a word,
right? Just interesting. There's definitely parallels between these two films, no doubt.
But I like the Dufresne character. I feel like if you ever feel like you can't do something, go watch Shawshank Redemption, because it might take you a while, but you'll get patience and
like perseverance.
Patience and perseverance. Patience and perseverance, man. Because he made it happen, and he was still at an age where, like, I think he might have went in when he was in his 20s or something like that, and then got out of his 40s, close to his 50s or something like that, and was still able to go live a life and still able to do these things, and had a lot of money to boot, and then brought his friend along,
right? Yeah.
And then just
I think it's funny that Frank Darabont also directed The Green Mile. Like, and he wrote it.
He was like, "Let me try my hand at this movie."
Yeah.
Let me do another Stephen King.
Spielberg prison.
Yeah. About a prison.
I don't know what I was going to say. Yeah, no, this is. I mean, it's a solid flick. It's definitely. It has to me. This was like the Kaiser Soze movie before Kaiser Soze. Like there was the big reveal with the poster.
Right. The big
was so mind-bogglingly like. Mostly because I think I think he won the warden over early. One, by being smart enough to carry a Bible. Two, he was smart enough to push the limits but help in such a way that the warden let him get away with everything. But that was the hubris of the warden that allowed Andy Dufresne to escape, not Andy Dufresne's perseverance. All they had to do was pull that stupid poster down and it was over. But they never touched it. So the hubris.
I love that he changed the poster too. Like he didn't leave any illusion that like something might be behind there, because he changed it every time. Like like every 10 years or something like that, because my man would give him a poster, so like he would change it so it wouldn't, you didn't think to be like there's something behind here, like something's going on type of thing. So like he was smart enough to change it, but then he was also smart enough to keep his head down but up in a certain way, because it's like he didn't ruffle feathers, and if he did it in a way that made you be like, okay, he might be on to something, because he ruffled like Clancy Brown's feathers, so he was just like, I can help you, bro. Like I can help you save this money that you're looking to save.
Is Mjolnir okay?
Everything okay, Mr.
Mjolnir. Well, no, it's not okay. I'm reprinting it right now, but it decided it wanted to come down on me. So
yeah.
Somebody dropped the hammer.
You're no longer worthy, bro.
Dropping the hammer.
But yeah, so I don't know. I feel like this movie I think Andy Dufresne might be one of the smartest characters written like ever. Just one of the smartest, because he realized that like he would need a community. So what did he do? He rallied these people around him.
He kind of like created it himself.
He created it himself. Like, he took care of the people around him. Like, like when he needed more help, he went and got Red. And when he when they returned, like, yo, we need beer, man. Like he was like the hope. He was like the hope. Yeah, he was like the hope for these people. Like they didn't have any. And
he was
now
Nick Fury, and they were the Avengers.
Exactly. And he's like,
well, they cared because he thought about them. That was the thing.
Yeah.
So, nobody else did, and I just feel like he talked about hope, and Red's like, we don't do that here. This is
right.
Like, we don't do that here.
And
he's like, yeah, we kind of like, you gotta have it, man, because if you don't have hope, you will leave, and then you will just kill yourself like Brooks did.
Right. So another
know,
parallel.
so-
Jack Nicholson, when he gets everybody partying, stops and he stares at the camera for a little while, smiles, enjoys kind of seeing them do their thing, much like Andy Dufresne does the same thing on the roof.
Yeah.
These tropes are
yeah.
very paralleled. I think that Andy almost is like the parental figure because he is innocent. He doesn't
Yeah.
have that cloud over him, that shame, the guilt that he constantly has to process. He just is clear-headed about, this is what I need to do. Everybody else is literally trying to process, what did I do to get here? Why am I here? I don't belong here, as the fish at the beginning of the movie says. I think that a lot of that is due to their true guilt. Red is an interesting character because he admits he's guilty when everybody else doesn't. So I think we do get to see a different dynamic there where he's just accepted it. He realized, I think he was institutionalized early, that he was kind of stuck and there was nothing he could do. But still, I don't know.
This is also another one of those films that's just like so well casted. I
Right.
mean, like everyone. I mean, I can't picture like really anyone else playing the roles that they're playing. Like Tim Robbins is Andy, you know, Morgan Freeman, the actor is playing Brooks. I mean, like, yeah,
Like even all the background actors, like
Yeah.
even though I don't think the guy who was like the Elvis kind of dude, I don't know his name.
Tommy.
I don't know if he's done anything after that.
Mhm.
No, I mean like his real name.
Oh,
I don't think
Gil
I don't know if
Bellows.
he's done anything.
Yes, he's done a few
Yeah.
things, but he's not huge.
He's I've heard the name, but I don't think he's done like a lot. But like he was just right for that role. You know what I mean? Like he just like everybody I feel like was seated in that role correctly. You know?
yeah.
Now, if this movie was shot 10 years later, it could have been Shia LaBeouf playing that role. The greaser. Right, because he played that. Never
Oh,
mind. Yeah.
I was
Right.
like,
You guys are obviously not remembering him playing
like,
a greaser. You're like, we don't want to remember that movie. That's a terrible
because
movie.
we
I mean, he
didn't
could.
want
I
to
mean, he
remember that.
pale, dark hair. I mean, I see it, but I don't know.
Yeah. I'm a defender of the fourth Indiana Jones, but I'm like the only person on the planet that does.
I've never seen any Indiana Jones film, so can't agree or not agree with you. So
I was waiting for that. I'm afraid if I leave, it might like mess things up, so I just don't on principle. But I left in spirit. I left with them.
yeah, well, because you've left before and it's still like been
No,
there.
well, I'll remember that for next time you say something
You
so.
cut your camera. I think if you cut
That
your
was odd.
camera off, you'll be fine.
I can't believe you haven't seen a single Indiana Jones.
sorry.
Okay, so
I haven't seen a single
we are
Indiana
going to
Jones.
have an Indiana Jones night.
Indiana Jones night.
We'll just watch all four of them. Done.
I'll do
Done.
my best.
Speaking of which, so I'm thinking about having, because we're doing an on guest, off guest, right? And we'll get to rating this film in just a second. But next week, I'm thinking about having a TV star, or not TV star, a TV actress on the show. And so I was thinking maybe we could review the first episode of Moon Knight and maybe some other television shows, since we haven't been touching much television lately.
I would like to throw the DMZ into that. The first
Okay.
episode of the DMZ.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
What about
that looked interesting
Euphoria?
to me.
You guys interested in trying out Euphoria?
Not
Look at
personally.
those two.
Yeah, not
Those two are
personally
like-
either.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a no on that. We'll talk about it, but we already have two.
Right.
Maybe we'll do movies as well, but I still think it's a good idea because
I
we're
mean-
going to all be excited about Moon Knight and want to talk.
I mean,
together,
I feel
so-
like
Yeah.
we should sometimes do TV shows. Like when we don't do movies, we could just do
Yeah,
TV shows
yeah.
because we used to do that, and then we just got all hype into movies that because we used to talk about WandaVision and Loki and things like that, and we just kind of like trickled off to just doing all movies. So I feel like we can do both. One week can be TV shows, one week can be movies. You know.
Agreed. We can figure it out. I totally agree with
Let's
Moon
watch
Knight.
the first
Though,
episode of Power Rangers. No, I'm just playing.
how do I go away again?
That's my guilty pleasure. Power Rangers is my guilty pleasure.
No,
Well, it's
it
not
is.
even guilty. I tell people all the time.
It's not guilty. I watch Power Rangers. I'm
Power
dedicated
Rangers.
fan.
I am dedicated.
Listen, I even like the original Power Rangers movie with Ivan Ooze.
Ooh, wow.
So
Listen,
Oh man.
that's a part of my childhood. It's ingrained in my DNA so hard that I can quote so much from that movie. It's unreal.
Oh wow.
Interesting.
That's funny.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Not for me. I'm not a Power Rangers person. I think it hit just a little after me.
little
That
bit.
said, we do need to do some reviewing. I do want to do another shout out because I haven't gotten to do this yet. But we, of course, cell phone, wallet, and keys has not been feeling well. That's why he wasn't able to do the promo this week.
That's how
So
he even say even watch
everybody wish him well, that he feels better. We did have Lala step in for the promo, and she did an amazing job. I loved that. I want more 40s movie announcer.
I will be doing when I review things now. I know I review the DMZ, but when I review things now, maybe movies, not TV shows, I will be doing the movie. I will be doing the 40s voice.
I like it. I like it.
Nice.
Because Snitty liked it and he said do it, so I said okay.
Well, I think there's something about that, the way that cadence and the way I don't know. That's just me. The other shout out would be to Super Comic Guru, who was not able to do a pre-review, but life gets us all. But again, if you haven't followed or don't know Super Comic Guru on TikTok, please go follow him, as well as Silphone, Wallet and Keys. And then a final shout out, not only to this panel, amazing panel of hosts who are always amazing and bring great insight and a lot of pretty faces. I know that I'm the troll of the bunch.
Yes,
So,
do the beard.
yeah, Marvel likes beard. Yeah, I'm the troll of the bunch. Y'all are gorgeous people. But anyway.
Handsome people always call themselves trolls. It's so annoying.
Yeah, I will not take that, but I appreciate it nonetheless.
Take off that cap. and
Okay,
show off
so
that
yeah, everybody wants
beautiful,
to see the bald
beautifully
head.
shaved
So.
head.
That's
Look
a good
at that
head,
beautifully
man.
shaved head.
That's a good head, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have an egg-shaped head.
Solid head, man.
The final shout out, and this is an important one, is actually going to go to Hannah. She has been building out the Discord in a way that I've never seen. In fact, I'm going to see if I can show it off here. But we even have like little emblems and various things, and she's going to blow it up.
Thank you, Hannah.
Hannah, you're amazing, and thank you for all your hard work. That said, let's do some quick reviews, and maybe we'll raid somebody, as we usually do. Mr. Marvelite, we started with you.
What does ratings?
Oh, let's see. This is one of those things. This is one of those movies where I will put it in a category where it is near perfect. So it's like a 9.9 for me. I love this film.
Yeah.
I can go back and watch it anytime. If someone hasn't seen it, I mean, like Marvel when we were in the live, like it's like you're going to love this film. Like it's just a great overall film. Like I can't say enough about it, and I loved it as a kid. So yeah.
All right, I like it. 9.9. That's one of the highest ratings you've ever given.
I have given it 10.
I think you have, but that puts a 9.9 there. Pretty close. All the movie things.
It's a 9.9 for me also. Yeah, it's. I mean, yeah, I said it too. It's like a near perfect film. Mr. Marvelite said it all. Like I can watch this film and it's guaranteed, that I'm gonna love it just as much as the previous, however many times I've seen it. So it's, and Roger Deakins. So
and the sultry voice of Morgan Freeman.
Right. Black Girl Marvel.
Obviously 12-year-old me would not have watched this. Okay.
She didn't.
She did not. She bypassed this.
Saw the trailer.
She saw the trailer. But she bypassed
coming attractions.
But me now, I'll give this film a solid 9. It was a really, really good film. As you all know, I don't give nothing a 10. But I thought this film was very, very well done. Actors were all in their place. Storyline was great. Plot was amazing. Even though I knew what was kind of going to happen because I watch movies.
You could see in 94 how you might not have, right?
No. I can literally go back in my brain and be like, yo, nobody would have guessed that this is how this would have turned out. You know what I mean? And then but me being who I am now, and it's 2022, and I know stuff.
Movies don't shock most of us anymore, I don't think.
No, they really don't. And then, I can pull stuff out and be like, but it was still like a great ride to be on, even though I could be like, oh, this is going to happen. I will say, like I told the guys before it started, I was very much so like, he better see him one more time on screen. Like I wanted Red and Dufresne to see each other one more time. And you know how 90s movies, they'll cut stuff real quick. But yeah, solid 9. I'm happy they saw each other. And I'm happy that, what's his name? Red got some hope before he decided to take his life too. So
if you've come this far, maybe you'll go a little further.
Exactly. I love that line. That was such a good line.
Of course, get busy living or get busy dying, is another great line. For myself, because I rate on a not perfect scale, I don't believe in perfection at all. This is a 10. This is a movie that everybody needs to watch, and there's a reason it makes most top lists. I think it's also in my top 100 because it's just brilliant. And it's one of those movies. If we flipped through television, which we don't anymore, but if I was flipping through and I caught even half of this film, I would be like, oh, I'll watch the rest of this, because it's one of those movies. That said, I did want to say one last weird little thing, and then we're going to raid somebody we've never raided before. I did manage to pick up a pro account on Letterboxd, Brian. And I think all of you will be interested, but the reason I'm bringing it up is because of Roger Deakins. I picked up a Letterboxd pro account, which allows you to break down all of your viewings in every category, including cinematographer, production assistants, like a wild amount. And so I go down to my top 5 cinematographers. Deakins is number 3.
Nice.
So I've seen.
I mean, should be number 1, but
no, just the number of films I've seen with Roger Deakins he's the 3rd cinematographer I've seen the most of, essentially. So it's not that I'm rating him; it's just he's like ubiquitous on my list. So that was really neat. And then I was able to look at his list with all the posters, and there's definitely a theme, some aesthetic themes that you can see playing out from the films when you keep them in mind. So obviously not from the posters; that's a different artist, but you get my drift.
Right.
Just putting that out there. If you guys aren't following, I think all of us have a Letterboxd. I think we do.
Yeah.
I know I do.
Kind of, yeah.
Mr. Marvelite will only review Marvel movies on Letterboxd.
No, it's not that. It's just I'm too lazy to go through and have to go back and rehash everything I've watched. Because I've watched a lot of
I feel
movies.
like you should just I feel like you should just rate them. You don't have to review them, and then you review the new things you watch.
That's what I do.
Because I'm just gonna put all my movies in. I ain't about to rate all those. Stop.
If you go rewatch it, be like, oh yeah, when I watched this the first time, I thought, and then give your current review. Right.
Yeah, I'll just give my current review. That's what I've been doing with stuff.
I don't know, but it's a fun way to see more of what we review on other films.
Listen, I struggle hard enough trying to keep up with my Instagram and my Twitter beyond TikTok. So like, it's hard for me to add another social media platform. It's real hard. Yeah.
Okay, so what we all need is a social media manager. We need 4 social media managers that are willing to work for peanuts, literally, because that's all we have is peanuts or digital.
Anna, can you quote us?
I'm kidding, of course. So this has been episode 24 of The Real Study. This is season 1. We will start season 2 later. We'll get to that. That's not for a while. That said, we will be apparently doing some television next week, but this has been a fun classics episode. I look forward to another one of these, hopefully, in a few months, because there's too many good classics to skip.
Yeah. Indie Day is coming.
Which one?
Indie
Day.
Oh, Indie Day. Yeah, we're going to do an Indie Day. We're going to do a short films day. We're going to try to really make sure we cover film.
We're going to do an A24 day.
Yes. So we're going to all pick our favorite A24 film.
I'm a little bit away from 5,000 tickets. I've got to claim another movie, and I don't know if y'all are going to like.
You have 4, I think, already listed, or 3 that we've already got listed, including Kingsman. So I think we'll do Kingsman when we do Batman, so we can just do another comic book night and just kind of cover several comic book movies, something like that. But anyway, we're gonna raid.
Yeah, because I'm gonna be throwing Howard the Duck in there.
Oh no! Well,
I can redeem whatever you want. I have a lot of points.
I just started reading like the history of Marvel and stuff, and realizing that like out of the success of Return of the Jedi, George Lucas bombed with Howard the Duck. Like I have so much to say about this film now.
I love Howard the Duck.
Terrible.
Okay. I was like 3. Howard the Duck came out when I was 3.
A $39 million budget. It only made $3.9 million, and that's not even including the $8 million for marketing.
Let's not mention the actor in the film who's a terrible human being.
But that movie was the reason why Pixar went to Steve Jobs, why Marvel got sold.
Yeah,
because Marvel struggled after that one too.
Oh yeah.
But honestly, if you think about it, if it wasn't for Howard the Duck, we wouldn't have the MCU.
Because of Howard the Duck, we almost didn't have the MCU.
No,
because Ronald Perlman was the guy who bought Marvel Entertainment from New World Pictures, and he basically sold the stock, pocketed the money, stole $302 million from Marvel, and they almost got broken up.
It wouldn't have been the same. Kevin Feige wouldn't be a part of it.
It is a miracle that Marvel exists still today.
No, but I'm saying all things happen for a reason. Just like plot points in movies, you wouldn't have one thing without the other.
I will say this: it was all of the bad choices through Marvel's history that got them to the point of saying, let's do it ourselves. And I think that's what caused
Honestly,
success.
that's what I'm saying. If it wasn't for Howard the Duck.
He's not rating fast enough. I'm just saying.
I am struggling with this username, so I think I'm going to raid somebody else. Actually, hold on.
If it wasn't for Howard the Duck, I would die on that hill. I'll die on it.
See, the thing is, I liked Howard the Duck. Like I did. Like
I grew up with Howard the Duck. So
I grew up with it. Yes, and it was like the only problem was it was like it made it like when Marty McFly's mom
For me,
got a little bit
creativity
Right.
starts with.
Oh man.
and it was like
Listen, she had sex with a duck, man, and it did something to me as a 3-year-old. I don't know what that did to me.
Let's just say
did
she got down with the duck, like down.
They didn't.
You know what?
They didn't do everything that you imagine they did. I don't think. That's just my take.
I mean, but
anyway.
do ducks have like parts
In this movie, they do. Remember, they show the girl duck at the beginning and the play duck, which she has.
That's right.
She has.
I haven't watched it in a long time,
Parts.
so yeah, redeem it. Should I redeem it?
If you do, we're just gonna throw it on that night with the Batman.
Oh yeah, I'm
and
pretty sure, but it needs
Kingsman.
to be
So
on there.
that
movie,
said, we are gonna raid. We're gonna raid. We were gonna say that movie, and then we'll raid. No. Okay, she redeemed it. I thought you had more, Mr. Marmalade. It's all good.
Yes.
No, it's okay. I didn't have enough.
Okay, here we go.
I'm just a little bit out.
I got points, man. Don't you worry about it. I got you.
Thank you.
Let's see how this goes.
Too bad your brother wasn't on because